Good afternoon, Larry, in the panel.
Good afternoon, Ms.
Good
Butler.
afternoon, sir.
Good to see you.
You as well.
We are now on the record in the matter of Miss Amanda Jean Butler, case number 2024-090 for the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy. My name is Joshua Baxter, and I'll be the hearing officer today.
Yes, sir.
Today is the 9th day of October, still 2024. Please silence your cell phones now. Ma'am, would you please identify yourself for the record?
My name is Amanda Jeanette Butler,
And are you represented by counsel?
my pastor and the deacon of our church.
Okay, fantastic. So, and that will be a witness that you plan to call?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good to know. Did you receive a copy of the order and notice of today's hearing?
Yes, sir.
And you are ready to proceed?
Yes, sir, I am.
Fantastic. Board's counsel, would you please identify yourself for the record? Oh, would you please identify yourself for the record?
My name's Ashley Vales. I'm the general counsel for the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy.
So, Ms. Butler, I'm just going to go through a few just brief points about this proceeding. Interrupt me if you have any questions. So for the benefit of anyone present who may have not been involved in an administrative hearing, the board will base its decision solely on the evidence presented today. I'm the hearing officer. I'm not a decision maker. These folks to my left, to your right, those are the ones who'll be making a decision.
Yes, sir.
This hearing is held under the Arkansas Administrative Procedures Act, which means that we're not in court, so the strict rules of evidence do not apply, and the parties will be given latitude in introducing evidence. This means that anything and everything that you wish to be a part of the record and as part of their deliberations, you must introduce into evidence today.
Yes, sir.
All participants in the hearing should be aware that this proceeding is subject to the Freedom of Information Act, and as such, all parts of the hearing, including the deliberations of the board, are open to the public. For those of you who are or may be witnesses in the proceeding today, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. At this point, we're going to discuss some preliminary matters, which basically means if you have any evidence to introduce to the board, Ms. Fales, do you have anything you would like to bring to the board's attention?
Yes, in the board's tablets, I have exhibits number 1 through 27. I also have an additional exhibit number 28 that Ms. Butler has presented today for the board's consideration. I move for the admission of exhibits 1 through 28 in this matter.
Okay. Ms. Butler,
Yes, sir.
any objections to that?
No, sir.
Okay, let the record reflect that board's exhibits 1 through 27 and Ms. Butler's exhibit 28 have been introduced without objection. Please. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And is there anything else you'd like to discuss at this point?
I just asked the board to take judicial notice of the applicable statutory rules and the rules of statutory provisions and the rules of pharmacy board, and they're applicable to this hearing today.
Ms. Butler, sound good to you?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Judicial notice has been noted. Okay, now we'll move on to opening statements. Ms. Fels, would you like to make an opening statement?
That's very brief. Board staff denied Ms. Butler's application. She did disclose in her application that she would have something come back on her background check, and she had been arrested. The charge was from 1995. She was arrested and charged with murder in the first degree, a Class Y felony. She and the affidavit and all the information is in your packet for review. Basically, the facts are that she was in a nightclub in Saline County with her mother. There was an argument with the victim in this case. It escalated with some threats. Ms. Butler retrieved a .32 caliber revolver from her mother's purse. She walked to the table where the victim was and fired the revolver 2 or 3 times. One of the bullets struck the door of the building and another one struck the victim in the chest. And the victim died at the emergency room, and Miss Butler left the scene, but she was apprehended shortly thereafter. In September of 1996, she pled guilty to that murder charge and was sentenced to 300 months or 25 years in the Department of Corrections. Board staff denied the application because we felt that her criminal history rendered her unfit to obtain a pharmacy technician registration.
Thank you, Ms. Pels. Ms. Butler, would you like to make an opening statement?
Yes, sir. I did in fact commit the crime. But at the same time, I was protecting my mother from my misbehavior as being a teenager. I do ask that you guys please do not define my past as my character today, because I was young and immature at that time. But I've come to realize being incarcerated, it helped me become a better person today than back in 95. I have a 6-year-old son that I'm trying to provide a better life for because I don't want him to make the same mistakes that I've made back in my past. I speak to different kids at different engagements. I try to reach out and explain to different people as an adult that prison is not the way that you would want to go, if that makes any sense. But I do say I thank God for my incarceration because I am a better person. I am a better mother, and I want something different from my family besides working at a fast food restaurant for the rest of my life. I want to show something different. I want to be positive, a positive role model for the younger generation, because in today's society, that's all we are seeing is killing, and it's coming from young people. So with a person of my stature, if I can reach out and teach them that that's not the way, then maybe this world could be a better place, if that makes any sense.
Thank you so much, Ms. Butler. Ms. Pels, you may call your first witness.
Well, Dr. Bridget McCready.
Let the record reflect that Dr. McCready has been sworn in. You may proceed.
Dr. McCready, state your name and your job title here at the Board of Pharmacy.
Brenda McCready, Assistant Director for the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy.
And as part of your job duties, is it for you to review pharmacy tech registration applications?
Yes, it is.
Did you review Amanda Jeanette Butler's application?
I did.
And am I correct in saying she did disclose that she had been arrested?
That's correct.
And she provided the background information from the court as well as affidavits and things that gave us the facts surrounding the murder charge. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct.
And tell the board why you felt compelled to deny the application based on that murder charge.
She was arrested and charged with murder in the first degree, a Class Y felony. She was found guilty. And staff felt that that was a disqualifying criminal action pursuant to Arkansas Annotated Code 1792-311.
And part of the allegation is that we are alleging that her criminal history renders her unfit to obtain a pharmacy technician registration. Can you tell the board why you feel that based on that criminal history, she's unfit to work in a pharmacy?
She carries, this is not a minor crime. This is a felony crime. And I do realize it happened a very long time ago, but she took the life of a person. When we are in a pharmacy, we're there to help the public. We're to take care of the public. Our job here at the board is to protect the public. And we felt like because of the nature and the gravity of the conviction that she was not fit to be a technician.
Else you want to add? I'll pass the witness.
Thank you. Ms. Butler,
Yes, sir.
may cross-examine Dr. McCready. Right now, you can't give testimony, but you can ask her any questions. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask her?
No, sir, not at this time.
Yes, ma'am. Board.
I can't find the law book on my tablet. What does 1792-311 say?
It's in the order of notice of hearing also.
It is.
It says that you may revoke or suspend or not issue a permit or refuse to issue a permit if the person is committed or found guilty of the following offenses. And one of those is a felony listed under 17-3-102. And murder is listed in that. I have that as L4. So that provides the board with authority to not issue a license based on that charge of murder in the first degree because it's a listed offense in that statute. But it also grants you the authority to waive that disqualification as well. Well, that's L3 and L4.
Repeat the last thing that you just said.
So it also allows you to grant a waiver of the disqualification. So the murder charge in and of itself is a disqualification, but you can waive that disqualification. It's an enumerated offense in that statute. 17-3-102.
Do you know how many enumerated offenses are listed there?
There's quite a bit. I can look it up for you, but murder is at the very top of that list.
Okay,
And it goes down, offenses against a family member, things like that. So oftentimes you'll see us bring people in for hearings that have one of those enumerated offenses requires a waiver granted by the board.
but not all of those are felony
No,
convictions.
not all of them are felonies. So they're listed sort of like in order of the gravity of the offense, like murder is on that list, kidnapping's on that list, rape, sex offenses and things like that are on that list.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Of Dr. McCready. All right, seeing none. Ms. Bells, do you have another witness?
I do not.
Thank you so much. So Ms. Butler, now is your time to present your case. You may call witnesses, you may make a statement. How would you like to proceed?
With my pastor first.
Okay. And then, yes, sir. Yep, please come to the table. Yes, sir. And then feel free to hit the button on the microphone so it goes green. Thank you, sir. And would you please state your name for the record?
Stephen Travis Robinson.
Let the record reflect that Pastor Stephen Travis Robinson has been sworn in. Ms. Butler, you can proceed with your questioning of Pastor Butler.
I don't understand.
Well, do you have questions you would like to ask him?
Would you explain to them? You came to know me, how long you've known me, and how I've changed?
Ms. Butler, if possible, I know it's kind of hard when you're turning, but make sure you're speaking in that microphone.
Yes, sir, I apologize.
Thank you, ma'am. No
Yes,
worries.
sir.
Good evening, everyone. I've been knowing Miss Butler all of my life. I was a child and my dad was the pastor 50 years. And I took over the church where he was. We grew up in the same church. When this crime happened, I believe I was maybe 20 something. I was young, real young. I used to write her in jail and make sure she was good because I knew her heart. I knew she was a great person. And ever since she's been out, she's been phenomenal, a phenomenal mother for her son, phenomenal wife for her husband, phenomenal church member, disciple. There hasn't been any incidents where I have to go back to the court. As a matter of fact, she's at Bible study, prayer service. She's a big supporter of our ministry. And I just believe that her heart has changed, her mind has changed. And I believe that we all deserve another chance. That's just, I don't want to get biblical in here, but God gives us all chance after chance, brand new mercies every morning. And I understand the crime was top tier. I do, taking someone's life. But all through the Bible, there were murderers that God gave another chance. David, so many. And I'm just asking that you would give her another chance to provide for her family. Fast food could only go so far in the pay, and she's trying to do something positive for her family, for the community. She speaks to the young ladies and the children at our church about her past mistakes, and it's something that helps our youth and helps her. She doesn't, glory in that mistake, but she's learned from it. And I just pray that you will give her another chance. The board members, I know you've already looked at her application, and we can't change the past, but we can change the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Fels, any questions of Pastor Butler?
Yes. Your name again?
Pastor Stephen Travis Robinson.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Sorry,
You were
Ms.
calling
Butler.
me.
Yes,
You're
Pastor
good.
Robinson. Apologies.
What church are you a pastor of?
New Zion Grove Worship Centers in North Little Rock.
Okay. And how long have you been a pastor at that church?
15 years. I've been there my whole life, though.
Okay. And so you're a contemporary of Miss Butler's. You were aware at the time of when she was arrested and charged with this murder.
Yes, my father was the pastor at that time.
And so how long has she been back in your congregation?
All of the years I have pastored, 15, she's been there.
Well, I mean, some of them she was in prison,
Well,
right?
she was there. She has been there since I've been there.
Right.
Yes.
And then she went to prison for a while.
I can't recall the time frame.
All that?
Yes, ma'am. So I don't want to get
Okay.
twisted with that. But I've known her all my life.
Okay. But you don't recall when the last time she sort of rejoined the congregation?
I took over in 2009.
Okay.
So I don't know the time frame of that. 2009.
Right, and she, what does she do in the church? Is she,
She's just a faithful member. She works with the youth department, and that's her passion because she wants to help the youth not make the decisions she made.
and so it's no secret to the youth or the youth's parents or anything of her criminal background.
No, ma'am.
Everybody there knows, I
Oh,
guess.
ma'am, she's very vocal because she wants to help them.
Okay. All right, that's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Ms. Fels. Board, any questions of Pastor Robinson?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Butler, you
Yes,
may
sir.
call your next witness.
Deacon Glenn Bryant.
Afternoon, Mr. Bryant. Would you please state your full name for the record?
Glenn Bryant.
Okay. Ms. Butler, you may proceed with your questioning.
As well as I asked the pastor, could you explain to the board who I am, how I've been since I've been home, what I do for our community, and as well as my job?
Okay, Ms. Butler is, she's a joy to be around, first of all. She has been out in the communities. Every time the church go in the community, she's out there. She's at church consistently. She's always correcting children. And to my knowledge, there is that she's a cheerful person, but what happened to her was unfortunate, or what she done was unfortunate. But like we always say, you can't judge a person's future by their past. So all I can say is she's a phenomenal person, And I can ditto everything my pastor said because I've been at that church basically all my life too.
Any other questions?
Can I add something? Can I elaborate
Yeah,
on a little?
you're welcome to ask another question. And then after this, then of course you can make your statement.
Okay, at my current job, explain to them how I am with people.
She's been around the food chain. I mean, McDonald's, Burger King, and everyone's that works with her. I think she's a joy to be around. She communicates well with people, and she's always willing to help whatever they need to be done.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Ms. Fells, any questions of Mr. Bryant?
No, thank you.
Board. Thank you so much, Mr. Bryant.
Thank you.
Sir.
Ms. Butler?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to make any additional statement?
Yes, sir. I would ask that the committee, when you're rendering your verdict, that you find in your heart to give me another chance because, like I said, I don't want my past to define who I am today. I want to show something different. I want to be something different. I'm not that same person. And had I knew back then what I know now, that crime would have never been committed. I'm not a bad person. I was just young and just dumb. I'm gonna put it that way. But as of now, I'm trying to excel. I've submitted my high school diploma as well as other curriculums that I've achieved in that I would ask you guys to take into consideration. I'm just asking for another chance. Like I said, I'm not the same person. And if I could bring in some of the correctional facility officers, they would tell you I'm not the same person that they met back in 95 versus now. I am a joy to be around. I don't plan on never hurting anyone again because I don't want to be separated from my son. My son is my joy. I've had 2 miscarriages before I could even get to him. So he's my world. Everything goes to him. I'm trying to provide a better life for him. And I don't want him to think that fast food is the only way because of my charge defining who I am. Like I said, I'm not that person, and I'm just asking for another chance to prove to you guys that I am a better person and that you wouldn't be disappointed.
Thank you, Ms. Butler.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Fells, any questions of Ms. Butler?
I do. Ms. Butler, so you went to prison in 1996?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you serve out the entire 25 years?
No, ma'am.
When did you get paroled?
I made parole October the 15th, 2014.
Okay, so you've been out since 2014.
2004. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what kind of jobs have you had since you were released in 2014?
Fast food, McDonald's, Burger King, Panera Bread, factories where you work to wash and press linens for different food chains and hospitals. I was a catering coordinator for Panera Bread in my past.
And these documents that you submitted today, a high school diploma, did you achieve that while you're in the Department of Corrections?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And also this Riverside Vocational Technical School is also a program within the Department of Corrections.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's in office technology.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you have another diploma from funeral service education. Have you worked in the funeral service industry?
No, ma'am, not yet.
Is that your intention to pursue that line of work?
Well, at this time, ma'am, really, I'm just trying to further my education to excel and strive better because I want better. I'm hungry for better.
Okay, so You went to court and you you didn't have a trial, you pled guilty to this
Yes,
charge,
ma'am.
correct? So
Yes, ma'am.
there wasn't any defenses necessarily that you presented to the judge or jury to consider.
No, ma'am.
Okay. And you had applied, I think you and I talked about this, you had applied to seal your record
Yes, ma'am.
and the judge denied that because it's not eligible to be sealed. Is that your understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so a murder conviction can't ever go off your record, I guess.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know yet. No, ma'am.
Okay. That's all I have for Ms. Butler.
Thank you, ma'am. Board, any questions of Ms. Butler? Yes, sir. Mr. Simpson.
Do you have a pharmacy tech job lined up?
Not at this moment because I wanted to make sure that I was okay with you guys. I didn't want to go above you guys without having some type of documentation, if that makes any sense.
Get these papers separated, and I'll ask you another question. This high school diploma was handed out after you got out of prison?
No, sir, I obtained it while I was incarcerated. Yes, sir.
You say that you're a different person now.
Yes, sir.
Can you help us a little bit about the bad you were before the good that you are now?
Yes, sir, I can. I can elaborate a little bit. I was molested by two of my siblings that led up to me having to be placed with my grandmother. Because my grandmother raised me majority of my teen years. And then I went on to rebel a little bit because I wanted to be with my mother and my father. I mean, every child wants to be with their parents, if that makes any sense. But at the same time, I didn't understand. And then when both of my parents became to be on drugs, I was like, I wanted to go stay with my older siblings because we needed more stability, if that makes any sense, because my brother was in the military and I wanted to do better. I didn't want to be around drugs. Then with that being said, we moved to Saline County to where I was gang raped by 13 different guys. And by that time, I lost all sense of hope. I didn't care about life no more because for someone to take my womanhood from me, like I wasn't anything, that I was just dirt because 13 guys raped me. So I just had a lot of anger built up because I felt like no one was there to protect me. And so all that rage and anger just led up to me just running the streets and living on the streets because I felt like I couldn't go to none of my family members. I mean, if they allowed my two siblings to molest me and then protect me, and then me leading up to getting raped by 13 different guys and no one was there, who was I to turn to? I didn't have anybody to turn to if I had both of my parents on drugs. So me being the person that I was because my parents were on drugs, I love my parents regardless. Like I said, I can't judge or define them, only they can want to change themselves. But because all of this happened to me and the stuff that I was dealing with and going through, that it got my mother involved, that I didn't want anything to happen to her because of me running the streets. So I had to protect her from the things that I were doing because they was coming to her house where my younger sister laid her head and slept at, looking for me. And I didn't want to bring danger or harm to them because I didn't want to be responsible for anything happening to them. So I was like stuck between a rock and a hard place, if that makes any sense. It was either going to be me or that young lady that ended up, regardless, dying that night. So I had to protect. And no, I know I was wrong for doing what I did. But at that time, young as I was and the things that I was going through, sir, I didn't have no sense of stability. And like I explained earlier, I'm thankful that I became incarcerated because I got to find who Amanda is. I didn't know who Amanda was. So by that being said, it was a lot of classes and a lot of things that I was able to take in there. Going to school out here, sir, it wasn't even an option for me. I mean,
Well, I know that you know generally what a pharmacy tech does.
yes, sir.
Can you tell us what about the new you is going to enable you to do a good job being a pharmacy tech?
The new me, sir, meaning that I'm willing to listen to whether it's young, old, it doesn't matter. If they got problems and they need questions answered, I'm willing to go beyond, above, because I feel like someone has to have someone to talk to, if that makes any sense. Meaning that your drugs won't be abused because I am not a drug addict. I want that to be on the record. I don't drink. And I want them to understand that even though we're on medication, I'm going to say us as a whole, because in some shape, form, or fashion, we all take medication, whether you're a diabetic, if you have high blood pressure, it's rendered that you want to explain to them not to abuse that because it can harm you, if that makes any sense. And I don't want no one to get harmed in any type of medication. So if they ask me, what is such and such pill or what is the side effect, I want to be able to explain that to them, because today people are dying of fentanyl, sir, and it's something that I don't want to happen.
Do your prison experiences help you in understanding those kind of problems?
Yes, sir. It's my coping mechanism. It helps me every day. So if I feel, just using an example, if I get upset or I'm down, I think back, Amanda, prison, your son, your family, and I don't want to jeopardize any of that. So I can say today that you won't have to worry about me going back, because next week will be my 10th year anniversary being home, being free.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions of Ms. Butler? Thank you so much.
Yes,
At this
sir.
time, we'll move to closing arguments. Ms. Bells, would you like to make a closing argument?
I would. Members of the board, Ms. Butler is here asking you to give her another chance. I'm not sure that that's your role in this. You're charged with protecting the patients of Arkansas. And while Ms. Butler has served her time, the charge of murder is one that's not sealed by the courts. It's on the top of the list for you to consider whether or not you can deny her application based on her criminal charge. And there's a reason for that. And while I appreciate what Ms. Butler's done with her life since she's been released, and she went to church, and church is a great place to find forgiveness and healing. And so she's making the right choices in that matter. The question is, do you want someone with that kind of criminal history working in a pharmacy? And that's for you all to answer. Staff would say no, based on that criminal history. We were not comfortable granting her application, and that's why we denied it. And we'd ask that you uphold that denial. It's not has anything to do with Ms. Butler's character or, what she's been through at this point, but you have to keep in mind that we're here to protect those patients. And we don't think that it's appropriate for someone with that criminal conviction to be working in a pharmacy.
Thank you, Ms. Bells. Ms. Butler, would you like
Yes,
to make a
sir.
closing statement?
Yes, sir. I understand where Ms. Vales is coming from, and I understand the laws, but at the same time, I'm still asking that you guys take into consideration. It was a mistake that I made when I was 18. I'll be 47 in 2 weeks. I just want something different, and I'm asking. Because like I said, I do not want to do fast food for the rest of my life. I don't want to feel like because of my past history, this is what my end results would have to look like working in fast chains up until I'm 60, 70, or 80. I don't want that. I'm not going to hurt the citizens of the state of Arkansas or no matter where I reside because I'm not that bad criminal. I just made wrong choices and decisions in my life. And I'm wanting a second chance to show that there is still some good in me and I am a good person.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
At this time, we'll go off the record for the board's recess for deliberations and a decision regarding the findings of fact and conclusions of law. Once the board reaches a decision, we'll go back on the record. Ms. Fales, do you have a comment, ma'am?
I do. I just have a copy of that 17-3102 that Dr. Jolly was asking a question of, if you want to review it during your deliberation.
Yes. Okay, for the record, Ms. Fales is passing out a copy of Arkansas Code annotated 17-3-102, which is the list of enumerated offenses. I think there's around 36, which they may consider. All right, we are off the record for the board's deliberations.
We'll acknowledge that, and as initial part of the deliberation, we're going to review this document. Does the board have any discussion? Mr. Simpson?
Well, I mean, I think the question's really pretty straightforward, although difficult. And that is, do we waive the disqualification or not? That's our decision to make. And I think I could see it argued multiple different ways. I'd be interested in knowing how the rest of you feel about that question.
Dr. Newsom, you want to weigh in?
She's paid her debt to society. Apparently not the 18-year-old anymore.
Dr. Boone? Dr. Jolly?
I do believe in. Licensing board.
Mr. Simpson, having heard that,
I'm still, I'm still conflicted. It seems to me that it's extremely unlikely that customer in a store would be the subject of assault or battery or murder or whatever. I think that she is disqualified because of the murder conviction. No question about that. So the question is, do we waive that disqualification? And I think that means that the burden is on her to show that she's fit to provide the services. I think the burden's on her, not on the board to disprove it or us. And I don't know. I think it's a close call. I think I really would defer to you all as practicing pharmacists on that situation.
we have four voting. Right now that we have 2-1 straw poll. Ma'am, the question comes down to, do we consider the woman that you were, or consider the woman that you would appear to be to us now?
I want to be that woman that appears to you now. I'm not that same person.
Board, do we want to go back on the record for this? For any additional questions? I think if we do ask Ms. Butler questions, it would be appropriate to put these on the record. Ms. Fels, what are your thoughts? I know this is part of the deliberative process, but yes.
Well, and actually it was not my intent. I guess it just sort of happened that way.
Yes, sir.
It's admirable that she would make headway over the years, work toward educate herself. I certainly can appreciate the things that she has been doing in her community to bring her crime to light and to discourage young people from going down that wrong path. It would seem incongruent for someone with a past of murder, regardless, to be in healthcare, which is the intention is to bring to life. I appreciated the pastor's comments regarding King David. King David he murdered his soldier because he lusted after his wife. And King David had a second chance, but there were sequelae to that. He lost his family members, his sons, because of that. So there are consequences that come. I think I don't have a vote in this, at least not yet. But if I had to make a decision, I think I would err on the side of denying the approval.
There's only one other mitigating thing I can think of, and I raise that not to argue in favor of it, but just to get it on the table. And that is, I assume, since this conviction has not been sealed, that even in the event she applied for a job and didn't tell her pharmacy employer about this, it would be discoverable. So before she would be practicing as a pharmacy tech, it would require an affirmative decision by. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. But again, as I say, I just wanted to get that out as a point.
I know that, called out in the second section. Kidnapping.
I think regretfully, I've got to agree with that. It's a tall hill to climb.
So we had enough discussion to make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion, not one, enjoy making.
So we'll go back on the record.
We're back on the record for the board's motion and vote.
So in the matter of Amanda Jeanette Butler, pharmacy technician applicant case number 2024-090. Board finds that allegations 1 through 6 are proven. Charge 1 is true. We hereby do not grant the waiver request and deny the application for a pharmacy technician permit.
We have a motion by Dr. Jolly. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Boone. Any additional discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
We have 3-1 vote. The motion passes.
Let the record reflect that the motion was passed by a 3-1 vote. Ms. Fales, please reduce the board decision to writing and attempt service on Ms. Butler. Ms. Butler, if you wish to appeal the decision, appeal can be taken under any specific provision relating to this board or under the Arkansas Administrative Procedures Act located at Arkansas Code annotated 2515-201 and following. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, this hearing is concluded and the record is closed. We're off the record. Ms. Butler, I'm just going to say one thing. I believe in you 100%.
Yes, sir.
And in my personal capacity, I encourage you to look at a pardon, which would go before the governor, but please do not let this discourage you. You're on the right path.
Yes, sir.
Good luck.
Thank y'all.
What's that?
I'm going to try to get to two quick discussion points in less than 10 minutes. You guys were handed a Rule 4 that had markings on it where we've had some questions. Our current retail offsite order entry, it is limited to where it can only happen between 2 permitted pharmacies within the state of Arkansas. You flip to the next to last page on the backside, there's an arrow to show you how it is a slightly different approach for hospital offsite order entry, where it would allow a pharmacist, an Arkansas licensed pharmacist, currently in good standing, to enter orders at a remote or offsite entry locations. We've had a couple of requests that are 2 or 3-fold. One would be if it is not in an Arkansas licensed pharmacy retail wise, that a pharmacist might still be able to do offsite order review. So whether that be in a facility or not, that would be up to the board to determine. One of the big parts of that request is we have out-of-state pharmacies that cannot integrate with long-term care facilities or do offsite order entry into the state of Arkansas because they're not within the borders. So we have some that would like for their pharmacist, only their pharmacist, we're not talking about techs at this point, to do that type of offsite order entry for an Arkansas facility or pharmacy. And then we also have a facility in Arkansas that would like for their pharmacist to be able to do the same type of order entry for someone else out of state. So the question is, if you guys want me to, if you want to think about that, talk about that, or if you want me to start wordsmithing a potential future rule change on that to proceed forward. Any questions that you have?
Between pharmacies is required in the retail setting because technicians were allowed to do that.
Yes.
And knowing that a pharmacist at some point will have to be involved in that process.
Yes.
Pharmacists were doing it, then fine, it's no different than a requirement for hospital. So it would seem that the only difference between what we do and what you're proposing is that if we allow pharmacies or but not allowing technicians to do that, putting pharmacists in both of the situations, whether it's hospital or retail, they're exactly on par.
Yes. That's literally what the request would do.
Well, but to me, like the hospitals have a need for that for 24-hour coverage, whereas we have pharmacies in the state that can do this currently. So do we need this change? Before we make a change, I think it's a big one. I would,
I would disregarding the implications, just clarifying.
And mainly, I want to be sure you guys see this. You may feel like you are ready to go on this right now. You may say, we want to think on this and, dedicate some time for some future discussion, but I wanted to bring it to you. So we do have some mainly out-of-state facilities that want to be able to do that, to integrate and help do, order entry related to like long-term care orders and stuff. And then we have some in-state that would like to be able to do it for an out-of-state pharmacy, whether that be work from a facility, work from home, whatever it would be, similar to what you pointed out with hospitals. All retail. For retail orders.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because I know institutions have been able to do that.
Yep.
So we're opening it up to basically everybody now.
That's the request, that if it's an Arkansas licensed pharmacist, that they would be able to do that across state line, or it would be up to the board to approve specific circumstances. I imagine you'll have some that at some point are going to want to do it from home or somewhere else, or they're not even in the facility. That's what we saw with hospital after several years. They were in a facility, and then it was a couple of companies came forth that didn't do that. I know there's a parallel conversation that goes along with this with the development of like NABP Verify, where, and I can get you guys language from some other states, that some states require that any pharmacist touching a prescription for that state has to have a current NABP verify, which is it's similar to what they did earlier with the passport. It basically means that they have been vetted to have their license verified, it's current and good standing, and they keep watch on it like it's ready for reciprocity, basically. Like if we do a reciprocity license transfer on somebody, we get a current report that here's any potential disciplinary action that has ever happened, or there's no disciplinary action, and yes, it's in good standing in the home state. Verify, and I will misspeak, and someone will send me an email that I missed something, but it basically keeps it in that constant readiness status where NABP is watching it. So right now, we require you to have an Arkansas licensed pharmacist in every out-of-state pharmacy. But if there's 5 pharmacists there, one of them has a license and the others might be touching the prescription. Some of this has come about because there are states where they don't have a law test anymore. There's no jurisprudence exam. You don't necessarily have to get an FPGEC certification as a foreign pharmacy graduate. So there are some weird kind of shortcuts that are happening in some states towards licensure.
Could we limit that just to 2 Arkansas pharmacists as opposed to 2 pharmacists?
Well, right now, our requirement on the out-of-state pharmacies to have a single Arkansas licensed pharmacist.
Right, but to perform this particular function.
This function, you would have to have a current Arkansas license to do this function if the board instructed staff to.
Well, if we move forward with a proposed rule change, I assume that will be subject to notice and a public hearing, and we'll be able to hear people's comments before we decide to adopt it or not.
So generally what we do is if the board tells staff to start drafting something, we would start drafting it, and then we would go through the approval process through Department of Health and Governor's office to even have it considered as a potential rule. So it's, first of all, do you want us to even try to attempt to come up with something to see if it would be approvable for review through ADH Governor's office? And if it's approved there, then you would start the public notice and comment process where you would get the public comments you're talking about.
And then we would be free to either approve or reject it.
And even if you approve it, then there's a whole nother round where any comments that are brought in have to be basically explained, as well as you have to put in what the board's response was to each written or verbal comment. And then that would go for legislative review and have to go through rules review. And legislative would have to.
But just to clarify, if we should, for whatever reason, deny it, that's
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Well, to me, before we ask for a whole lot of other people to do all that work associated with that, to me, the question I have is, how does this benefit patient care? How does it contribute to safety? Hospital thing to me is if you've got a hospital in some small town, mid-sized town, Arkansas, and they're not open 24/7 because it doesn't bear it and we don't require it, then verifying those orders, whether you're out of state, sitting in your pajamas at home or whatever you're doing, provides a level of safety to that patient that otherwise wouldn't happen. So I would like to hear more about both of these and how we think that they're going to either fill an unknown need that's not available or how it contributes to better patient care.
Yeah, this
This
is
is my opinion before we ask you to put all that work.
this
in.
is more workload balancing than filling that extra gap, at least compared to the hospital side.
But will it affect patient access to a pharmacist in our state? That's my concern.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that in addition to that, there aren't any other unintended
Consequences.
haven't thought about it.
You guys have this, you can take it home and ponder over it. The other quick thing I had, let me hand this to you.
All right. But if you staple them, then I can get it.
Yes.
So this one is a little bit strange because I think that we have had some miscommunication between our office and this company, but I've got two different emails on here. One of them is with DHS, which is the top one. The second one is with it's called Matrix Care, which is a company that has a EHR solution for assisted livings, long-term cares, nursing homes. They had previously appeared before the board, and I know Ms. Bales and I have told them, like, to appear on something, you have to appear in person. We've had a couple times they said, well, we can appear by Zoom or something like that, but that's not how the board is operating at this point, except in greatly extenuating circumstances. So we also had a request from DHS. DHS, you'll see in their email, they have some facilities on page 3. I've highlighted kind of this section that is, or the back side. It's page 4, actually. That they have a facility, or they have some facilities that people are actually in DHS specific facilities. That could be human development centers or nursing home facilities where they may not be a specific ward of the state, so to speak, but they are in that state-owned facility. My understanding is, I've read through this and given back forth our answers, they may have Medicaid long-term care, they may have some other coverage as well as Medicare, but the patients don't end up having self-pay in these facilities. So even if they're not a ward of the state, they're in the state facility. So they are asking for us to be able to approve Matrix Care for integration for those facilities where freedom of choice should not be an issue. In a parallel fashion, Matrix Care is saying, we've solved the issues that we remember from our earlier meeting. They asked us, well, what questions are going to be asked? And we don't know what questions you guys are going to ask, which is why people come in person to appear. My request would be, because of the unique nature of the DHS facilities, would the board, without them even being here, approve Matrix Care for use in those state facilities for pharmacies within Arkansas to connect? And if Matrix Care wants to pursue further approval for non-state DHS facilities, we can put them on a future agenda.
Are we getting to the point with these long-term care EHR things that we have enough under our belt where if they meet, I mean, how many more unique questions are we going to have? I guess is my question for an EHR, because it feels like we've had 3 or 4 of these in the last year.
We have. This one was denied previously because of their answers.
2021, right.
So what we generally do is, if we approve the system under a set of approval, then they can connect to anyone they want. So we're not doing hey, you want to connect to these people now and those people, except this one is weird in that if the board wound up in a conversation with them and decided you still had freedom of choice questions about steerage to a pharmacy, that should not be an issue with the DHS facility, because there should not be a freedom of choice issue. It's contracted directly through the state. So that's the only reason I would pull this one out for a different type of approval than normal.
Well, I would say for the DHS thing, since freedom of choice isn't on the table for discussion, I don't have an issue with it.
They described that they would either go to Medicaid long-term care, or if there's a backup with Medicare. So it's in the DHS email. It's, I don't know down to that micro level. I know that they will have a contract with one specific pharmacy. And what I've told DHS is, if that's a pharmacy within Arkansas and this gets approved, then yes, they could have that integration. But if they contract with someone off in another state, we haven't approved offsite order entry and integration for pharmacies that we don't inspect out of state. Yeah, that's what they've done in the past. I mean, they mentioned who they'd been contract with before. If they change that and it's not within the state, then they've got different issues they have to deal with, but we've made that quite clear to them. Yeah. I think that it's all contracted to the one pharmacy. And they're just saying that these people all have either LTC, Medicaid, or something else with Medicare as a
It may be
backup.
like, I mean,
Like the Human Development Center, it's one pharmacy.
like the Department of Corrections, for example,
Yeah,
it's
that's a-
really
yeah.
it's a cash, and the cash is not the right term, but you're not adjudicating claims.
Yeah.
Right. You've got a contract with a pharmacy and this is how much you pay.
Yeah. If they'd asked, if Department of Corrections had come with the same thing, I'd be asking the same way as for the DHS approval.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you're gonna need a motion on this, but.
Yeah, for the DHS would be helpful.
I mean, if no other board members have issues about the DHS thing,
It's just to the extent.
So we could give approval for the facilities that have a state contract with a specific pharmacy within the border of Arkansas that they can connect.
Sounds good.
and then I guess if they want to extend that to other long-term care facilities.
We bring them to
We
the
bring
next
them to the next
informal,
informal.
like we don't usually even bring these to, well, we haven't always brought these to formals. Since this one was denied before, we probably would have because it was our next available meeting.
You got anything else in that, Glenn? So I guess the motion would be to approve the CHR for use with DHS facilities that,
To integrate per board policy.
so moved.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Dr. Jolly, second by Dr. Newsom. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Yeah, have it. Motion carries.
That's all I got for you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. I do. I'll just,
Hi there, good afternoon. We are back on the record in the matter of Justin Brazil. Is that the proper pronunciation? Brazil. And Elizabeth Connor. Case number 2024-079. My name is Joshua Baxter and I'm the hearing officer. Today is the 9th day of October, 2024. Would you please identify yourself for the record, first and last names?
Justin Brazil.
Elizabeth Connor.
And are you represented by counsel?
Yes.
Counsel, would you please identify yourself for the record? Okay,
They're not today. They don't have attorney
Got it.
today.
I'll clarify, yes. You're not you don't have an attorney that's representing you, okay. I know these seem very basic questions, but we're always doing this thing called building a record, so that's why I'm asking these questions. Did you receive a copy of the order and notice of today's hearing? And you are ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Board's counsel, would you please identify yourself for the record?
Ashley Bales, General Counsel for the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Brazil and Ms. Connor, I assume you haven't been in an administrative hearing before, so I'm going to go through an explanation of proceeding. Of this hearing today, the board right here, these are the decision makers, not me. I'm just the referee, will base its decision solely on the evidence presented. This hearing is held under the Arkansas Administrative Procedures Act, which means that the strict rules of evidence do not apply. In other words, it's not a courtroom. We want to give you the latitude to speak your mind and present things before the board. The purpose of this is to promote a fair hearing and provide the board with adequate information to make a decision. To ensure efficiency of the proceeding, I'll grant objections or caution the parties only as necessary. As mentioned, if there's anything in your possession that you want the board to consider, you must do it at the hearing today. All participants to the hearing should be aware that these proceedings are subject to the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act. And as such, all parts of this hearing, including the deliberations of the board, are open to the public. Do you have any questions at this point? For those of you who are or may be witnesses today in this matter, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding, and will you be giving testimony? I assume so.
Yeah.
So please raise your hand as well. Thank you. Sorry for not being more clear with that. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
With respect to preliminary matters, these are usually evidentiary things. Ms. Vales, I'll pass it to you. Do you have anything?
Yes, I move to admit into evidence exhibits 1 through 13. They're contained on the board's tablet. Dr. Bruzel and Ms. Connor have a copy there in front of them as well. So I move for their admittance into the hearing record.
Okay, and Dr. Bruzel and Ms. Connor, my apologies for missing the title. Any objections to this? Okay, let the record reflect that exhibits 1 through 13 have been admitted to evidence without objection. Any other preliminary matters, Ms. Vales?
Yes, additionally, I ask the board members to take judicial notice of applicable pharmacies, board rules and governing statutes. Those are outlined in your, order notice of hearing that you have in the packet.
Objections? Judicial notice taken without objection. Any other additional matters? Okay, opening statements. Would either of you like to make an opening statement?
I'm gonna, waive opening on this case.
Thank you. Dr. Bruzel, Ms. Connor, would either of you like to make an opening statement? Okay, Ms. Vales, you may call your first witness.
Call Dr. Brenda McCready.
Let the record reflect that Dr. McCready has been sworn in. You may proceed.
Dr. McCready, as part of your duties as the Assistant Executive Director of the board, do you oversee complaints and investigations received by the board?
Yes,
And did the board receive a complaint on July 7th, 2024, regarding a prescription filled by Dr. Brazil?
we did.
And can you identify for the record what Exhibit 5 is?
Exhibit 5 is the complaint that we received from the patient regarding the misfill of the medication.
And can you explain to the board what the crux of the complaint was and led to the investigation?
The patient was given a prescription for Ozempic. He was keyed into a pharmacy system and put on hold pending a prior authorization. For some reason, the dose of that medication was Ozempic 0.25 to be injected under the skin once weekly on March. And that prescription was given on May 15th of 2024. For some reason, the original prescription was closed out, so it had to be re-entered. The technician responded on our rescan the prescription image and re-entered it. Instead of entering it as Ozempic 0.25, she entered it as Ozempic 2 milligram per dose. And with the directions to inject 2 milligrams under the skin 1 day a week instead of inject 0.25 milligrams under the skin once a week. Dr. Brazil completed the data entry of the prescription and missed the error at that time. The medication was filled and gotten ready for pickup. When it went through the product verification at the end, Dr. Brazil was also the pharmacist to complete that verification, and the error was still missed. There was no evidence that we found of counseling, which might have caught the error. The patient was administered, he was given the medication, took it home, took his first dose, and the patient, of course, took an 8-fold dose of the Ozempic, proceeded to have severe nausea and vomiting for 36 hours. It was unable to eat anything or drink anything for up to 72 hours, even after the nausea and vomiting had stopped. He and his wife started to do a little bit of research and realized that the medication had been filled incorrectly.
All right, and Exhibit 13, can you identify for the board what that document is?
Exhibit 13 is it's what's called a STARS event. It's just the error record that they have on file at the company where the error took place.
Does that document indicate to you who did what as far as filling and dispensing the prescription?
It does.
And so tell me what role Ms. Connor had as the technician in the prescription.
She did the patient entry, prescriber entry, the script entry. And then Dr. Brazil did the upfront verification and the product review.
So it was entered wrong initially and then not caught by Dr. Brazil. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct.
Okay. And are you aware, was the patient a diabetic or do you know?
I do not know.
Okay. Anything else you want to add regarding this investigation?
No, ma'am.
Ask the witness.
Thank you. Dr. Brazil and Ms. Connor, do you have any questions of Dr. McCready? Okay, thank you so much. Board. Okay, thank you. Ms. Fells, you may call your next witness.
We rest.
Thank you. Dr. Brazil, Ms. Connor, do you have a witness to call at this point? Would either of you like to make a statement?
No, not in addition to the one that I submitted.
Okay. And the statement you submitted, do you know off the top of your head which exhibit it is?
It's 12.
Exhibit number 12. And Ms. Connor, did you submit a statement as well? Okay, would you like to make any statement right now before the board?
I just want to say that I apologize to the patient. What has happened, and I assure you after this, I will never do this ever again. But happen again, so apologize for the suffrage that the patient has gone through and of what happened.
Thank you. Ms. Fells, do you have any questions of the witnesses? Dr. Brazil and Ms. Connor?
I do, if the board will allow, I do have some questions for Dr. Brazil. Dr. Brazil, so you made in your statement, you sort of admitted that this was an oversight and you didn't do the verification as effectively as you should. Is that a fair statement? Had you had any contact with this patient since this incident happened?
So when he came back, when he came back after we'd given him the dose and he'd had his week of vomiting and nausea, he came back. And I have not had any since then.
Is he still filling prescriptions there at your store? No,
I know I transferred it to another pharmacy
at his
a few
request.
weeks later. Yes, sir.
Yes. Do you have any insight after you were aware of this problem about specifically how this oversight happened, or was there anything particularly going on that day that contributed to this?
I don't. So the only thing that I can think is that I had seen this prescription multiple times already, because it gets checked every time it goes through the verification process. You know, when we sent for the PA, I checked it. When we sent it through initially, I checked it. And so I guess assumed that I'd already seen it 3 or 4 times that it was fine. And I just sent it through without really giving it scrutiny that I should have.
Okay. Are you aware if this patient is diagnosed as a diabetic?
I'm unaware.
That's all I have for Dr. Brazil.
Thank you, Ms. Fells. Board, do you have any questions of Dr. Brazil or Ms. Connor? Okay. In this case, we will proceed to closing arguments. Ms. Fells, do you have a closing argument to offer?
I do. This is a med error case, and I know the board sees a lot of these types of cases. And I think it's natural that you would sort of mentally sort of align yourself as a pharmacist with what Dr. Brazil, sort of the mistake he made, and that could happen to anybody probably, and it probably could, except we have a patient here that because of this med error, was vomiting and nauseous for 36 hours. So I think it's important to remember, again, as I said before, we're here to protect the patients. And those errors, even though we hope they don't happen, there should be consequences to that because of the harm in this case that was done to the patient. So that I just ask you keep that in mind with regard to any course of action or discipline or non-discipline you want to impose on Ms. Connor and Dr. Brazil.
Thank you. Dr. Brazil, Ms. Connor, any closing arguments you would like to offer?
I would just like to say that, you know, I also echo what Liz said, that I feel terrible about what happened to the patient. I apologize multiple times when he was there, when he came back, to try and figure out what had happened. And, you know, I'm not trying to hide anything or shy away from the fact that I messed up. So I appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Connor?
I also just want to say how sorry I am and go past this and just see that we're all humans. We all make mistakes. And I hope that he's okay after this incident.
Thank you, ma'am. At this time, we're going to go off the record for the board's recess for deliberations and decision regarding the findings of fact and conclusions of law. Yes, sir.
We didn't get a chance to ask a question, or I missed it. I know it's kind of been reversed, but I do have a clarification for the.
Okay. Yeah, we have a question of the board member of Dr. McCready.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So allegation 11 says no proof of counseling was presented. So was there an allegation by the patient that counseling was not provided?
Am I allowed to answer?
Let's
What I read was
give,
that the patient, it's in his complaint, he said he followed their directions on the instruction sheet for the first dose on the 25th and didn't notice the error. It does not say in here he did not counsel. We did not see counseling information back on the data sheet towards the back.
Well, I guess maybe the more direct question is, what will we point to as proof that there was counseling provided? Because the presumption, my understanding is that all new prescriptions are counseled and refills where necessary. And so generally, there's not going to be a record that will show us that counseling was provided unless the patient says it wasn't.
When we receive the documentation from the board, when we send out a request of records on an error, we ask for the steps of who was involved in what. We did not receive, to the best of my knowledge, anything that indicated counseling was done. And at A11, it says no proof of counseling was presented by respondent Brazil. And when you look at, let me find the. When you look at the STARS report, it discusses the patient entry, prescriber script entry, upfront product verification. We did not see anything that indicated counseling was done.
Okay, I've got a statement. Does Walgreens still have a system in place where each patient is offered counseling and the pharmacists have to scan if they refuse?
Yes.
Yes.
That
Yes.
that did take place? So you did come face to face with the customer and he refused counseling?
Yes, he
And you
would.
got a notation of that?
There was a badge scan. I don't know how you get that information, but I have to scan my badge for every new prescription.
Mm-hmm.
So counseling was offered.
Okay.
Thank you.
and in light of the fact that we kind of got the order messed up, is there anything else that either of you would like to speak to this counseling piece?
I don't believe so.
Perfect.
I would like to call Dr. McCready as rebuttal with regard to the counseling, if I could.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. McCready, what are the rules regarding counseling?
Counseling shall be done on all new prescriptions. It is not an offer to counsel. It is a requirement.
Okay, that's all I have.
I've got a question of Mr. Brazil.
Okay, and then 1 second, I'm just going to try to loosely put order back in here. Dr. Brazil, any questions, recross of Dr. McCready regarding the counseling?
No.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Have you all made any, changes to your practice or how you, review the prescriptions on the Ozempics, especially?
It,
Once a week dosing.
right. So it gets extra scrutiny now because the way that it comes across, like first thing you see is the two milligram, which is like the whole dose of the starter pen. So it gets extra scrutiny now, but I haven't changed like the fundamental way I've done it.
Okay, well, you've done any, in-services with your technicians to, be more aware when you enter those prescriptions?
So not any like formal, just nothing formal, no.
Whether the rest of your, staff know about this incident and they have become more aware?
They do.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none at this time, we'll go off the record for the board's recess for deliberations and decision regarding the findings of fact and conclusions of law. Once the board has reached a decision, we will go back on the record. We're off the record.
All right, we've heard the case. Is there any additional discussion that we have? Perhaps we could ask them to memorialize what they've already done. Any additional, perhaps they could consider Dr. Newsom's comments regarding education of the rest of the staff. But an action plan, put it in a letter to the board. We ready for a motion? Okay, well, we're ready to go back on the record.
We're back on the record for the board's motion and voting.
So in the matter of case number 2024-079, board finds that allegations 1 through 14 are true, and charges 1 through 5, are proven. Make a motion that for Dr. Brazil as the supervising pharmacist, he complete 10 hours of CE around medication errors and have that completed by the end of 2024. That he submit a letter detailing an action plan, both with what's been done already, as well as some suggestions around questions that board staff had today to prevent this type of error from happening in the future, and that he pay the board a non-disciplinary investigative cost fee of $500.
That's he's in addition to the 30 hours.
In addition to his 30-hour requirement for licensure. Above and beyond the 30-hour minimum requirement.
Okay. So we have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Jolly, a second by Dr. Newsom. Is there? Yes, sir.
If you want this to be non-disciplinary, do you want to offer that as a consent agreement?
That's a fact, it will be seen.
Okay, so I did not need to find state findings of fact.
I mean, if you want it non-disciplinary, I think maybe you shouldn't do that. And
Okay.
just
Do I need to restate the motion?
Offer consent agreement, authorize us to offer that consent agreement.
Okay, I'll restate the motion. In the matter of case number 2024-079, the board would ask board staff to offer consent agreement. We would recommend an investigative, non-disciplinary, cost recovery of $500 from Dr. Brazil, 10 hours of CE from Dr. Brazil above and beyond the 30-hour minimum requirement. Those 10 hours focused on error prevention. And also for him to submit a letter memorializing the things that he has already put in place. And in addition to take into consideration developing an action plan around feedback from the board to prevent these type of errors from happening in the future.
All right, so we have a revised motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Jolly and a second by Dr. Newsom. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is unanimous.
Let the record reflect that the motion was unanimous. In light of the fact that this is a consent agreement, I'm not going to read this part about the Arkansas Administrative Procedures Act and appeal because this will be agreement that you will sign with the board. Are there any further questions or comments?
I have one, so
Yes, ma'am.
no findings on technician Connor.
Any other additional questions or comments? Seeing none, this hearing is concluded and the record is closed.
Scouts.
Hello, how are you?
Okay, no.
That's the matter of Ms. Jenkins, correct? Ms. Fells? That's the matter of Ms. Jenkins. You were just speaking of,
Haley Moorhead.
no, not the one right now, but the one that is not
Oh,
here.
Ms. Jenkins is not here.
Yes. Right. Good afternoon, Ms. Moorhead. We are now on the record. My name is Joshua Baxter and I will be the hearing officer today in the matter of Ms. Haley Moorhead. Case number 2024-083, which is to be heard before the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy. Today is the 9th day of October, 2024. Ms. Moorhead, would you please identify yourself, first and last name for the record?
Haley Moorhead.
And are you represented by counsel?
I am not.
Did you receive a copy of the order and notice of today's hearing?
Yes,
And you are ready to proceed?
I am.
Board's counsel, would you please identify yourself for the record?
Ashley Vales, General Counsel for the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy.
Thank you. Ms. Moorhead, I'm going to go through a brief explanation of proceeding. For the benefit of anyone present today who may not have appeared in an administrative hearing, the board, I'm not the board, I'm the hearing officer, I'm just the ref. This is the board. These folks will base their decision solely on the evidence presented here today. This hearing is held under the Arkansas Administrative Procedures Act, which means that the strict rules of evidence do not apply, and the parties will be given latitude in introducing evidence. This is to promote a fair hearing and provide the board with adequate information to make a decision. If there's anything that you have in your possession that you would like the board to consider, you must enter it into evidence today at this hearing. All participants to the hearing should be aware that these proceedings are subject to the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act. As such, all parts of the hearing, including the deliberations of the board, are open to the public. For those of you who are or may be witnesses in the proceeding today, would you please raise your right hand? Ms. Moorhead, I know you'll be giving testimony as well. Thank you. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Ms. Fales, Ms. Moorhead, you as well. Right now, this is what we call preliminary matters. Do you have any preliminary matters you'd like to discuss?
I just moved to admit into evidence exhibits number 1 through 16, and Ms. Moorhead has those in front of her. They are in the board's tablet. So I'd move to admit those into the record.
Ms. Moorhead, do you have any objections to these
do
exhibits
not.
being admitted? Let the record reflect that the board's exhibits 1 through 16 have been admitted to evidence without objection. Any other preliminary matters? Any other preliminary matters?
Sorry. Yes, I move, I ask the board to take judicial notice of the applicable rules of the Board of Pharmacy and statutes governing this hearing are outlined in the order notice of hearing.
Ms. Moorhead, any objections? Basically, what this is saying is that the statute, the code, and the rules specifically relating to this board, that's what we're going to be using.
Okay.
Judicial notice so taken without objection. Would either of you like to make an opening statement?
I'll waive opening.
Okay, Ms. Moorhead? Would you like to make an opening statement?
No, I would not.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, Ms. Vels, you may call your first witness.
Well, Dr. Brenda McCready.
Let the record reflect that Dr. McCready has been sworn in. You may proceed.
Dr. McCready, as part of your duties as Assistant Executive Director for the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy, do you review pharmacy technician registration applications?
I do.
And did you have an occasion to review the application of Haley Moorhead, who's here with us today?
I did.
And what was discovered in the application? Well, first, let me back up. In the application, did Ms. Moorhead disclose that she had been arrested?
She did.
Right. And in her criminal background and supporting documents, what was discovered as part of the investigation on her application?
On December 13th of 2022, she was arrested for domestic battery, 3rd degree, a Class A misdemeanor. She pled guilty to that charge and was sentenced to 1-year probation with fines and other costs. On April 7th, 2023, she was arrested for domestic battery, 3rd degree, 2nd offense, Class D felony. On April 13th, 2023, applicant was arrested on probation revocation for the misdemeanor domestic battery, 3rd degree. On May 16th of 2024, the felony domestic battery degree, 3rd degree was dismissed for good cause, and the revocation of her probation was also dismissed. On August 11th of 2023, she was arrested and charged with misdemeanor failure to appear on the domestic 3 battery, Class A misdemeanor. The disposition of that offense is unknown.
And based on what was discovered in this investigation on her application, tell the board members why staff decided to deny her application.
Staff felt that her criminal history rendered her unfit to obtain a pharmacy technician permit.
And can you explain, did the recent occurrences of domestic battery cause factor into that decision?
Yes, because of the August 11, 2023, it being such a recent charge.
Anything else you want to add with regard to Ms. Moorhead's application?
No, ma'am.
Ask the witness.
Thank you, Ms. Phelps. Ms. Moorhead, do you have any questions of Dr. McCready?
Do I have any questions?
Yes, ma'am. So this would be your opportunity to cross-examine the witness. You'll still have your opportunity to make your statement, but if there's anything that Ms. Vels just asked Dr. McCready that you want to clarify, challenge, you can do so at this point.
I do not have any questions.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Board?
Just to be clear, there were 2 incidents, right?
There were actually 3. There was one on the December 13th, 2022. And then There was one on April 7th, 2023. Then we have one on August 11th, 2023. The April 7th, 2023, she was arrested. Then again, on April 13th, 2023, she was arrested on probation revocation. Those were both dismissed. And then the August 11th, 2023, we do not have a disposition of. So those, you have the first one on December 13th, 2022, then you have 5, 6, 7 together, and then you have 8. So she pled guilty to the first one in 2022. The one that happened April 7th, 2023 through May 16th, 2024 was dismissed for good cause, and the revocation of the probation was dismissed. Then on August 11th, 2023, she was also arrested and charged with misdemeanor failure to appear on domestic battery, 3rd Class A misdemeanor.
Was that like one of the earlier?
I'm just reading the one on August 11th. It sounds like she was arrested for failure to appear, not for an additional.
On the domestic charge,
On the domestic charge.
failure to appear on that charge.
I'll make a statement. Or no,
Say that again, ma'am. Yeah,
I'll explain the August 11th.
here in a second. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Any other questions from the board to Dr. McCready? Okay. Seeing none, Ms. Bells, you may call your next witness.
I'm gonna go ahead and call Ms. Moorhead.
Okay, Ms. Moorhead.
Ms. Moorhead, I'm just gonna ask you a few questions and then you can kind of testify freely after I do that. So you had a charge from December 13th, 2022, correct?
Correct,
And you went to court, you were convicted of that charge and placed on probation.
correct.
And then a couple of months later in April, you got arrested for a domestic battery charge again.
Correct.
Was the person that you were arrested for the first time the same person that you were arrested for the second time?
That is correct.
And who is that person to you?
Legally, my wife at the time.
Okay. And so by getting that second arrest, they charged you with violation of the terms of your probation on that misdemeanor. Is that your recollection?
The second, the second arrest was because I violated my own order of protection.
Okay, by
Yes.
being around the same person.
Yes, while trying to retrieve my items, I violated my own order of protection while doing so. And they found a scratch on her hand at the time, and that's what made it domestic 3rd degree.
Did she come into court and ask that they drop that charge, or how did that charge get dropped, that second one?
I went to court. I was in court August the 11th for the misdemeanor in district court, but I was unaware that they switched it to circuit court. So they arrested me while in court August the 11th. And so when once I didn't have to bail out, since no one knew about it, my probation officer didn't know, the bail bondsman from the first charge didn't know. They just let me out on good cause. I didn't have to bond out. They made my bail bondsman come and raise his right hand, stating that he understood that, you know, what he was saying, that he was allowing me to just be released on my own without having to bail out. I don't know the proper term for that.
So you realized when you were in court on the first one that you had missed a court date because you didn't know that was in circuit court? Is that what happened?
Correct. I wasn't notified by phone or mail.
And that
No one.
you didn't know, so that in their minds constituted a failure to appear.
Right.
And so did you get a conviction on that failure to appear, or did they drop that when you
They
went to
just
court?
dropped it. They just released me once I finally appeared before the judge after that 72-hour hold.
Okay, and on the second domestic battery that was a felony, you said you violated the no contact order and she had a scratch on her hand. What, did you go to court on that case eventually?
I did.
And what happened when you went to court on that case?
That's when I showed up August the 11th for that charge. But they were letting me know that that charge, since it was enhanced felony, it went over to circuit court.
Right.
So
Did you go back to circuit court on that charge, or did
I
it?
did. And
Okay,
that's when they dropped
so
it.
that's what I'm asking. When you went to circuit court on that second domestic battery, what happened in that case?
That's when they dropped it on Good Cause.
Okay, did they drop it because she came in and asked them to drop it, or do you know why they dropped it?
I don't know why they dropped it.
Okay, so then that sort of undid the probation revocation on the
Mhm.
misdemeanor, is that
Correct.
correct?
It was connected.
Okay, so you have one conviction for a domestic battery misdemeanor that you received probation on.
Mhm.
And have you completed all the terms of the probation on that case?
I have. I've now gotten my record sealed.
Okay. Do you have a job lined up to work as a pharmacy technician?
Yes, I'm actually working at Walgreens as a shift lead. They're waiting on me to transition over to the pharmacy.
And so your intention is to work in the pharmacy or just work as backup if you're needed?
Work in the pharmacy.
Okay. All right, that's all the questions I have for Ms. Moorhead.
Thank you, Ms. Fells. Or do you have any questions of Ms. Moorhead?
She might have another statement. I don't know.
Okay, we can proceed to the statement as well. Would you like to give your statement? Feel free to narrate anything you like.
Okay, I would just like to explain that I did make a terrible mistake of the last course of these 2 years of my life. I came to Little Rock to transition my career and find a better school for my child. And in the process of doing so, I connected with the wrong person that made the wrong choice, and it reflected on my name. And I was just a firefighter in the city of Pine Bluff, and I only came here to transition to the police side before I messed up my name. So now I'm trying to get more to the customer service side and get my pharmacy tech license.
Thank you, ma'am. Board?
So, yeah, you've been a police person and a fire person?
I was a firefighter for 7 years before I came transition here in 2022. I was gonna do police after that because I could no longer do that 24-hour hold with the fire department and trying to get my son in better schools. And I just connected with the wrong individual while doing so.
Okay, so why do you want to be a pharmacy technician?
Because while being an EMT with the fire department, you know, being on the scene, being able to help others, I was trying to get a more calmer environment while still doing the same thing. So I chose the pharmacy tech field.
Any additional questions, Ms. Moorhead? Okay, thank you so much. We'll move to closing arguments. Ms. Bales, would you like to make a closing? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Moorhead, would you like to make a closing?
No.
Thank you. At this point, we will go off the record for the board's recess for deliberations and a decision regarding the findings of fact and conclusions of law. Once the board reaches a decision, we'll go back on the record. We are off the record.
All right, we've heard the case. Is there any additional discussion we would like to have? Okay, we're ready to go back on.
We are back on the record for the board's motion and vote.
Simpson.
I have a motion in the matter of Haley Moorhead applicant, case number 2024-083. I move that we approve her application for pharmacy tech.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Simpson and a second by Dr. Newsom. Any additional discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously.
Ms. Bales, please reduce the board decision to writing and make her attempt service upon all parties. Thank you so much, Ms. Moorhead. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, the record is closed. Thank you,
We'd
ma'am.
like to take about a 5-minute comfort break.
Take a 5-minute comfort break. Get back here, what, 4:30?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Now on the record, my name is Joshua Baxter, and I'm the hearing officer today in the matter of Miss Alexandra Marie Ingram, case number 2024-084, which is to be heard before the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy. Today is the 9th day of October. Ms. Ingram, would you please identify yourself for the record?
Alexandra Ingram?
Yes, ma'am. And I see that you're not represented by counsel, correct?
No, sir.
And did you receive a copy of the order and notice of the hearing today?
I did, yes, sir.
And you are ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Board's counsel, would you please identify yourself for the record?
I'm Ashley Vales, General Counsel for the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy.
Thank you so much. Ms. Ingram, a brief explanation of proceeding for the benefit of anyone present who may not have appeared in this administrative hearing. The board, this group right here, not me, I'm just the hearing officer.
Gotcha.
The board will base its decision solely on the evidence presented here today. This hearing is held under the Arkansas Administrative Procedures Act, which means that the strict rules of evidence do not apply. So you don't have to worry about things like hearsay. If there's something that you would like the board to take into consideration, right now is your chance to offer that into evidence. All participants to the hearing should be aware that these proceedings are subject to the Freedom of Information Act and as such are open to the public. Ms. Ingram, you do plan on giving testimony, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please raise your right hand for those who may be witnesses today in this matter. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Are there any preliminary matters to be discussed at this time, Ms. Vales?
Yes, I move to admit into evidence exhibits 1 through 14. They're in the board's tablet. Ms. Ingram has them in front of her. So I've moved to admit those into the record.
And Ms. Ingram, do you have any objection to the admission of these exhibits?
No, sir.
Let the record reflect that exhibits 1 through 14 of the board have been admitted to evidence without objection. Any other preliminary matters?
I just ask the board members to take judicial notice of the applicable statutes and pharmacy board rules governing this hearing. They're outlined in the order and notice of hearing.
Let the record reflect that the applicable statutes and board rules have been taken into notice judicially. I got a little messy, but you see what I'm trying to say. Okay, end of the day, my brain. Any other matters at this point to be discussed? Would either of you like to make an opening statement?
I'm going to waive opening.
Yes, ma'am. Singer,
Go ahead.
would you like to make an opening statement or would you like to wait till your chance to give your testimony?
Well, I'm Alexandra Ingram. Currently, I applied for the pharmacy technician position, but it's not my background was a little bit hectic. So I come here today to stand before you guys to let you guys know that my past and I determine who I am today. And I'm in a better position than I was years ago. And I'm here. I had applied in 2019 again, but I didn't know what to take and what road to go, what direction to go through. So now I did go to school at AECC for the pharmacy technician position. And I found a way to get everything behind me. And now I'm up like for you guys to get this straightened out and to become a pharmacy technician. So here I am today with you guys' decision.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Ms. Fells, you may proceed and call your first witness.
I'm called Dr. Brenda McCready.
Let the record reflect that Dr. McCready has been sworn in. You may proceed.
Dr. McCready, as part of your duties as Assistant Executive Director of the State Board of Pharmacy, do you review pharmacy technician registration applications?
I do.
Did you review the application of Alexandra Ingram?
I did.
And in her application, did she disclose that she had previously had an arrest that would show up on her background?
She did.
Did she disclose that she would have something that was expunged from her record or sealed?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And as a result of the background check, what was discovered as part of her criminal history?
As a result of her application, we did run a background check. We also noted that she had applied for an Arkansas technician permit on April 2nd of 2019, and that application was denied due to previous criminal history. And that, during that process, the board found on February 7th, 2014, that she was charged with theft of property, a misdemeanor in Little Rock. She pled guilty and was sentenced under Act 346. On June 18th of 2014, she was charged with and pled guilty to and was convicted of theft of property, a misdemeanor in Arkansas. On February 10th of 2015, she was arrested for possession of a controlled substance and theft of property, misdemeanor in Conway, Arkansas. She was convicted of criminal contempt. On December 17, 2015, she was placed on probation after failing to meet the terms of her previous conviction. She applied for a technician permit on April 2nd, 2019, and that was denied. She applied again on July 10th, 2024, and we are here today because of a staff denial of that application due to the previous information that I've just given you, as well as the fact that while all of that history happened back in 2014-15, she failed to meet her obligations with the court until June of 2024.
So staff had previously denied her application before based on her criminal history.
That's correct.
And I guess, is that why staff was now uncomfortable in granting it based, I guess, on the same history?
Based on the same history of the theft of property and the possession of controlled substances.
Okay. Do you have anything else you'd like to add with regard to Ms. Ingram's application?
I do not.
All right, pass the witness.
Ms. Ingram, do you have any questions of Dr. McCready?
No, sir.
Board?
Maybe I missed it, but what was the controlled substance involved?
The receipt for the arrest is under Section 8. It just says possession of controlled substance. I don't believe they have what the substance was. So I do not have what that possession was.
Mr. Simpson?
Grady, were there any charges subsequent to the first denial and today?
No.
No new activity?
No new activity, except that she did not meet. She had terms that she was supposed to meet from that previous activity that she did not meet until 2024, a month before she applied for this new application.
What kind of terms are we talking about? there?
The terms from her, hold on, let's see. I have to pull this up. She was placed on probation. She had some obligations with the court that she completed in June of 2024. And that was information that we obtained from her application.
Was that paying money or community service or what?
Failure to comply with court orders.
I'm sorry.
Maybe she can answer that. when
Yeah,
we
it's
get to-
failure to comply with court orders is the information we have, so it could be a number of things, but we can go over that with Ms. Ingram.
Yeah.
Any other questions of Dr. McCready? Okay. Ms. Fells, I assume no further witnesses, correct?
I'd like to, in the interest of time, call Ms. Ingram.
Mr. Ingram, I'll give you the choice. Would you like to make a statement first, or would you like to just answer the questions that Ms. Fells has for you?
I can make a statement.
Okay, make your statement first, and Ms. Fells, you'll have a chance to examine afterwards. Ms. Ingram, the floor is yours.
Excuse me, regarding Mr. Simpson, question, it was an outstanding balance that I didn't pay, and, I have finally got the money to pay for it this year, and so I went ahead and got it off my record and paid for the fine. So that's why it was upholded until this year, because I finally can take care of the problem. So I took care of the problem, got it all behind me, went before the judge. He did say that I would have to come before you guys and tell the truth, which I know I'm not gonna lie about nothing, because it's all in the pudding right now. So I'm just being truthful and honest with you guys the best way that I am. And I'm here to improve.
So much.
Welcome.
Ms. Fells, questions?
So one of the charges that the board would look at pretty seriously is the possession of a controlled substance charge. And you were arrested for that charge in February of 2015.
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
recall that?
I do.
Tell the board what happened around that, what led to you being arrested.
What led to me being arrested was, I was at Walmart in Conway, off for Salem Drive, and, I scanned items, but I didn't scan all of the items. So when the guy did catch me and tell me, hey, you didn't scan every item, he did take me back to the, bag, and he checked my receipt, and, with that, everything matched, but I did have a previous charge in North Little Rock from Walmart. So that's why I did go to jail for that reason. And also I had a Xanax in my wallet. And so when the officer came and checked my wallet, he saw the Xanax, and of course he got it and charged me with it. And that's how I got the Xanax charge, possession of controlled substance.
So what did the court do on the Xanax? Do you recall?
He did, he just, took them. I don't know, I'm not for sure that what he did with them, but I know I got charged with it, so he,
Well, I
took-
guess, did you get punished for it?
I did, I did go to jail. I did, a month and 4 days in the county in Faulkner. And, so with that being said, they charged me for theft of property and controlled substance, and they ran the concurrence. So it was all on one case. It wasn't two separate cases, all on one case.
So you did some jail
I
time
did,
on
yes,
that.
ma'am.
And the contempt, that would be because you weren't supposed to go back into a Walmart?
No, the contempt was because I didn't pay the
previous
yes,
charge.
ma'am.
Okay. And so I mean, because you have more than one theft of property charge on here. What was the situation that led you sort of to make those choices with regard to the thefts?
Those choices that were made those years was because of the fact that I was young and living a fast life. I don't have a mother or a father, so I was really out here just trying to make a way for myself. But now that I'm older and I done really took my perspective, and I blame myself, but I have really, really forgave myself for what I have done. So now I'm 30 years old. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I'm pregnant with a child also. So I'm trying to make the best living I can for them.
So back then, what kind of items did you steal and why?
It was like mis-scanning clothes items, mis-scanning food items, things in that nature. It wasn't really big things over $1,000. It was like really under $1,000.
Okay. And so in February, when you got that possession and the theft, you had that Xanax on you. Whose Xanax was that? Where'd you get that Xanax?
I hadn't got the Xanax. It was for me, and I got it from a friend of mine at the college. And just to calm my nerves down and just think thoroughly.
Not something you had a prescription for?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So you bought that from someone?
I did, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then you said that you just completed all of your obligations because of you couldn't make payments on all this stuff.
That was correct, yes, ma'am.
All right. And you'd been denied your application before?
Yes, ma'am. I have applied for the pharmacy technician before in 2019.
And just to be clear, the criminal history that's before the board today is the same criminal history that was before the board when your application was denied.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
Okay. All right. And that's all the questions I have for Ms. Ingram.
Thank you, Ms. Fells. Board, do you have any questions, Ms. Ingram?
Where are you working at now?
Right now, I'm working at Sam's Club. I'm doing the samples where they come around and get the samples, and it's part-time. So I'm making a way, so.
Okay.
And I've got a question. Tell me the story about the Xanax. Are you still doing drugs, or why would you
Well,
take something like that?
I was taking Xanax because of the fact, excuse me, my mother is currently deceased, and at the time it was fresh, real fresh, and I just had entered college at UCA, and I was going through a lot of stuff. So I know a friend that knew something, that knew somebody who has them, and I had got one from them. And just to calm my nerves and get my mind right, because everything was and it was just so bad for me at the time. College, life, mom, young without a mom. Now I'm 30 without a mom and a dad. Now I'm a mother. I see life a little different. So it's not how it used to be, and I don't want to be in that life no more.
Okay, another thing I noticed, you've been to school at Philander,
I have.
and then you say you've been to school at Conway.
I have, yes, ma'am.
Why didn't you finish those paths? Why didn't you finish school?
The reason why I didn't finish UCA is because I got into trouble down there with the charges that I do have now. So it was just too hectic. So I moved back to Little Rock in 2017, and I went ahead and went to Philander and started my career there. But now, due to FAFSA reasons that I done been to school so much, so my FAFSA had ran out for undergrad FAFSA. So therefore, I have to pay out of pocket now, and school is very high. So that's why I took this chance to go to AECC to do an alternate to become somebody else. So that's where I'm here today.
Yeah, but you had the ability, you had the GPAs to get into school, and you let that drop.
I did let them drop. And so it was like an up and down motion. It was like I had a good GPA, then I dropped back down, had a bad GPA, then I got back up. And so my last GPA was at Philander, and I left this year of spring, when I found out that my FAFSA is completely ran out. So everyone knows that school is very expensive, and I pay out of pocket from where I'm at. I cannot pay out of pocket. So I did everything in my power to try to get help with the school, get help with scholarships, everything like that in my nature, and everything just ran out. So I'm still interested in going to school, but right now I don't have the money, the funds for school. So that's why I took a break and I went through AECC to get my pharmacy technician license.
But don't forget about that dream.
I'm not. I promise.
You had the
I'm not.
ability, but you wouldn't stay focused.
Mm-hmm. You're right about that, and I'm not going to forget about it. It's still on my heart today, and I'm sorry, but that's my passion, and I know that I have to do something in this life. Please excuse me. I don't mean to cry, but I've been holding it in for a very long time.
Just don't give up on that. The opportunity may present itself again, and you take it and run.
And I'm not going to give up. I promise. It's just for me right now. When I did find out that my FAFSA did run out and I didn't have no more undergrad, and this was my last year. I was supposed to graduate this May, and it's overwhelming because I did all of that just to get to the end of it. And it's just all threw away. Like I just did it for nothing. And I did it. So I was almost at the finish line until this spring. And I came up on all my courses. I got everything. Everything was perfect. It was going so right. Like too good to be true. Then I get here in the 2024 spring. I enrolled, I got all my classes, everything was enrolled, everything was up to date, only to go to financial aid to get cleared, to get my classes and my books, just for them to say that I have no more funds for undergrad. So I did everything I can. I try to get the GAP information. I let GAP pay for it. GAP didn't pay for it. I tried to go with the dean. I went with the off brand of the financial aid, the ones who take care of that, to try to get help by the schools to get funds. But they only had like funds for emergency, like as in light, rent, gas, and and rent and that nature. So they didn't have anything that can help me with the school. So I even tried to go through my job to see what they pay for me. And they didn't, at the time, they didn't even accept that. So I had no choices other than to either come out of my pocket with the $13,000 that was for the semester and pay for that. And that was for the fall and the spring, because I went fall and they took last year fall off of it. And so I had to pay for the fall and the spring to even go back to class. So I didn't have that money, like just to pull out and just give it to them. If I did, I would have did it. Yes, ma'am.
Do you still use Xanax?
Well, I do see a psych therapist, and I am prescribed to them now. And I go every 2 months to see a psychiatrist to talk about my life and how I'm coping with life and how I'm doing better than what I was doing previously months and years ago. So yes, sir.
So you're prescribed the drug though?
I am.
Okay. Do you use any other medications that are not prescribed for you?
No, sir.
Any marijuana?
No.
Okay.
Board, any other questions, Ms. Ingram? Thank you so much, Ms. Ingram.
Got a question for board staff.
Okay. Yes, question for board staff.
Was the controlled substance charged or conviction, or was that just a charge that was later? My question is in relation to DEA. And
It's
is
not
there
a felony.
Okay, that's what Gotcha.
Okay. Closing arguments, Ms. Bowles, do you have a closing arguments?
Just briefly, I think that board staff's concern was the same concern we had before. And why we denied our application before is the multiple theft of properties coupled with a Xanax. And you're putting her in a pharmacy where she would have access to that. With a history of theft, board staff didn't feel comfortable granting that, so we administratively denied it. She appealed, and that's why she's here today, but I'd like you to take that into consideration when you decide this matter.
Thank you, Ms. Bowles. Ms. Ingram, would you like to make a closing argument?
Yes, sir. Today I stand here before you guys, considering that you guys see a better version of me and see that I'm very serious about this, and that do not describe who I am today, and to let you guys know that I'm very standing before y'all to let you guys know that I'm better. I'm better, and I know that I have 2 kids to live for, and I don't want to let them see that side of me. So I'm pushing to be the better mom that I can be for myself and for them. So my closing.
Thank you, Ms. Ingram. At this time, we're going to go off the record for the board's recess for deliberations, regarding findings of fact and conclusions of law. Once the board reaches a decision, we'll go back on the record. We're off the record.
All right, we've heard the case. Is there any discussion we want to have on this? I think we're ready to go back on the record.
We are back on the record for the board's motion and voting.
Dr. Boone, do you want to make that motion?
In the matter of Alexandra Marie Ingram, case 2024-084, would like to overturn the denial and approve the license.
Do we have a motion by Dr. Boone? Is there a second? Second by Mr. Simpson. Any additional discussion on the matter? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's unanimous.
A question. Did we find the allegations true and charges proven or no?
I believe that was in the motion.
Okay, just for clarification.
Yes. Let the record reflect that the decision was unanimous. Ms. Bales, please reduce the board decision to writing. Singer, congratulations. Any questions for the board or any comments?
Just want to say thank you guys for actually seeing the real me on the other side and my soul, basically. Not this person, but the soul. Thank y'all.
Thank you so much. Seeing no further questions or comments, this hearing is concluded and the record is closed. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Look.
Okay, we'll get this.
Which is to be heard before the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy. My name is Joshua Baxter and I'll be the hearing officer today. Today is the 9th day of October, 2024. Mr. Chris, would you please identify yourself for the record?
As where I'm from, or
First and last name.
my name is Lawrence Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, lots of repetition in these hearings. And you are not represented by an attorney, correct?
No.
And you did receive a copy of the order and notice of hearing today's matter?
Yes, I did.
And you are ready to proceed?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. Board's counsel, thank you. Board's counsel, would you please identify yourself for the record?
Ashley Bales, General Counsel for the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Crias, I'm just going to go over a brief explanation of proceeding. The board's decision today will be based solely on the evidence presented here. This hearing is held under the Arkansas Administrative Procedures Act, which means that the strict rules of evidence do not apply. We're not in court, so hopefully we won't have too many objections. The whole idea behind this is to promote a fair hearing and provide the board with adequate information to make a decision. Anything that you would like the board to consider, you must offer it into evidence today. All participants to the hearing should be aware that this hearing is subject to the Freedom of Information Act, and as such, all parts of the hearing, including the deliberations of the board, are open to the public. For those of you who are or may be witnesses today in this matter, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Crias, do you plan on giving testimony? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. At this point, are there any preliminary matters to be discussed? Ms. Bales?
Yes, I move to admit into evidence exhibits number 1 through 18. They're in the board's tablet. Mr. Corias has them in front of him. In addition, he has submitted some documentation from the board to the board. I don't have any objection to those. For the record, it is a letter from Roberto Martinez, a letter from Larry Cato, and a letter from Tammy Huffman. That is already in the board's packet, but you have that in front of you. I have no objection to those being admitted into evidence.
Fantastic. Mr. Crias, any objection to the board's exhibits?
No, sir.
Let the record reflect that the board's exhibits 1 through 18 have been admitted into evidence without objection. as well as the 3 letters from Mr. Crius, which are also included in the board's exhibits. Any other preliminary matters?
Ask the board to take judicial notice of applicable pharmacy statutes and rules governing this hearing. Specifically those outlined in the order and notice of hearing.
Mr. Crius, any objections?
No, sir.
Let the record reflect that without objection, judicial notice has been taken. Got that right this time. Okay, would either of you like to make an opening statement?
I will waive opening.
Thank you. Mr. Crius, would you like to make an opening statement?
Only that, you know, all my life I've tried to get ahead. I've been young and I've messed up, you know, but now I'm trying to get ahead in life and I just want a second chance. You know, it seems like it's never been given to me. What's kept me from doing anything are these charges, and that was years ago. You know, I'm not the same person that this person was. You know, everything in here is different. You know, I'm just moving forward. And I hope that you guys realize that by the end of the day.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Fells, would you like to call your first witness?
Call Dr. Brenda McCready.
Let the record reflect that Dr. McCready has been sworn in. You may proceed.
Dr. McCready, as part of your job duties as Assistant Executive Director of the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy, do you review pharmacy technician registration applications?
I do.
Did you review the application of Lawrence Corius?
I did.
And if you'll look at his application under tab number 5, can you tell the board, did he disclose that he had been previously arrested and convicted of criminal offenses?
He did.
Okay, and so in his criminal background, what was discovered?
So on November 4th, 1999, Mr. Corius was arrested and charged with battery in the 3rd degree, which was a Class A misdemeanor, and terroristic threatening, which was a Class B felony. According to the probable cause affidavit, applicant Mr. Corius choked and threatened a woman with a knife, causing injury. He was sentenced to 48 months probation with fines and court costs. On October 17, 2000, his probation was revoked for failure to report and committing new offenses. He was sentenced to 5 years in the Arkansas Department of Corrections. Once he was released from the Arkansas Department of Corrections, his parole was revoked and he was returned to prison from December 19th, 2000 through September 13th, 2001. On or about June 22nd of 2000, he was charged with carrying a prohibited weapon, a Class A misdemeanor. We do not have a disposition of that offense. On or about July 12th of 2000, he was charged with theft by receiving, which is a Class A misdemeanor. We do not have a disposition of that offense. On or about December 10th, 2001, he was charged with driving on a suspended driver's license and obstruction of government operations, which is a Class C misdemeanor. He failed to appear for court on this charge initially. He was convicted on May 14th of 2003. On March 3rd, 2002, he was charged with domestic battery in the 3rd degree, which was a Class A misdemeanor, and criminal trespass, which is a Class C misdemeanor. The disposition of those is unknown. On or about February 23 of 2005, he was arrested and charged with domestic battery in the 3rd degree. He was convicted on October 25th, 2005 to 30 days in jail and a $100 fine. On or about January 2nd of 2007, he was arrested and charged with possession of firearms by certain persons, which is a Class D felony, and carrying certain prohibited weapons, Class A misdemeanor. He was sentenced to 72 months probation. On May 13, 2008, he was charged with a probation revocation petition for failure to abide by the conditions. He pled guilty or was found guilty and was sentenced to 24 months extended probation. On or about August 21st of 2007, he was arrested and charged with endangering the welfare of a minor in the 1st degree, which is a Class D felony, and endangering the welfare of a minor in the 2nd degree, which is a Class A misdemeanor. He pled guilty and was found guilty. He pled guilty or was found guilty. He was sentenced as a habitual offender and ordered to serve 180 days in jail.
And so based on this criminal history, even though it is several years old, why did you feel fit to determine that, in staff's opinion, he was unfit to obtain a pharmacy technician registration?
Due to the Arkansas rules and statutes, the criminal offenses that he's committed are disqualifying offenses, and so staff did deny the application.
All right, no further questions for Dr. McCready.
Thank you, Ms. Fells. Mr. Curious, do you have any questions, cross-examination of Dr. McCready?
No, sir.
Board, any questions of Dr. McCready? Thank you. Ms. Fells, any further witness?
No, we rest.
Mr. Korea, now is your chance to present your testimony. You feel free to make a statement as you see fit, and then, of course, you'll be questioned by Ms. Fells and potentially the board.
Sure. Ever since I took this class, I haven't seen anything for a long time. So this is actually the first time I'm seeing all this. It's not easy to look back in your past and realize what you've done, and and I really have nothing to say about it, but people change and people deserve second chances. I didn't expect to be in front of a panel having to discuss my case, but I know what I want to do in life, and I'm trying to move forward. And if this happens for me, it does. If not, I still got the packet that's going to the governor, depending on what happens today. And I'm confident, highly confident, that I'm going to get my pardon. This has been 20 plus years ago, and I'm not that same man. So that's all I have to say.
Thanks, sir. Ms. Fells, do you have questions, Mr. Korea?
Yeah, Mr. Chris, so I've looked at all of your documents and sort of walked down your criminal history. And some of the documents you provided, some of them you didn't. The ones on the felonies, obviously you did provide court documents for those. And the one I think that concerned me the most, if you'll look on Exhibit 10, and that is the probable cause affidavit for the arrest from, I think this is the first arrest from 1999.
Yes.
And it was for a battery. And can you tell, you haven't reviewed that, I'll give you a minute to reflect your recollection, but do you recall that incident?
Honestly, I don't. It's been a long time ago, like I said.
Well, would you disagree with me if, the affidavit said that you held a knife to a woman's body and threatened to kill her?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm being honest about that. And a lot of this had to do with alcohol, which I left behind years ago. So.
But you're not disputing that's what happened in this
No, I'm not.
incident?
No,
Okay.
everything that's in this paperwork is true. I did all that.
Okay. And so you were under the influence of alcohol at the time?
All the time. I mean, I'm not
At
nothing
the
to make.
time from 1999 at the
Yes.
incident I'm talking about?
Yes.
You were. Were you under the influence of any drugs?
No, I didn't do drugs.
Okay. And so you went to court and got probation for that, but then your probation was revoked. Is that your recollection?
Yes.
And you committed a new offense,
Yes.
which caused your probation to be revoked, and you went to the Department of Corrections. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then when you got out of the Department of Corrections, there's another arrest and conviction of possession of firearms by certain persons. Do you recall that from 2007?
I recall it looking through the paperwork. Yes.
And so that charge would be based on you being a felon. You're not allowed to have guns.
Yes.
Right, but in this case, you pled guilty to that. So you did have a gun
Yes.
in violation of the terms of your sentence.
Yes.
And you're placed on probation for that. And then it was extended probation on another case. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What was the circumstances around the endangering the welfare of a minor cases? Do you recall those?
Yeah, that's, I was living with, the kid's mother. I have no relationship with her as boyfriend or girlfriend. Didn't know he was left in the house I went next door. The kid came out. He wandered around. The neighbor called the cops because the kid was wandering around. And because I was at the house at the time being, I got charged for it.
Were you under the influence of alcohol at that time?
I was always drinking.
So that's a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And so do you still drink alcohol?
No.
When's the last time you had any alcohol?
About 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Okay, and you've never had a problem with drugs?
No, I never had a problem with drugs.
Okay.
Alcohol has always been the main ingredient in all this.
And so how many times did you go to the Department of Corrections?
I have no recollection unless I look through the paperwork.
You don't remember how many times you went to prison?
No, I don't remember how many times I went to prison. That's how long it's been. I mean, I don't even.
I don't think I'd forget if I went to prison. Is it one time or more than one time?
It's more than one time.
Okay,
Yeah, it's probably more than 5 times.
more than 5?
Probably more than 5 times.
And so under criminal statutes, that makes you an habitual offender, correct?
Correct.
So if you were to commit another offense, it would raise the sentencing possibilities because of your criminal history. Is that your understanding?
Yes, it would, but it'll never happen again.
Right,
I
but it
guarantee you.
had, like, you've been charged as an habitual offender in one of these cases,
Yes,
is
I
that
have.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's all the questions I have for Mr. Corias.
Thank you, Ms. Fells. Board, any questions, Mr. Curious? Thank you. Closing arguments. Ms. Fells, do you have a closing argument?
Yes, board staff didn't feel comfortable granting this application due to the numerous felony convictions. There's a pattern of not following those provisions that the court instructed him to do, provisions on parole, following the law. You know, that's evidenced by him having a gun after he's been convicted of a felony. Even though there is some time in between, you know, it's been some years since this happened. These are very violent offenses for the most part. If you read the facts constituting probable cause, Exhibit 10, it's pretty egregious. And it's just a matter of, you know, a trust issue and whether or not it's appropriate for someone with that kind of criminal history to work in a pharmacy. And that's a decision that we bring before the board members today as staff. We didn't think it was appropriate, so we denied the application. Mr. Corias appealed. What brings us here today?
Thank you, Ms. Fells. Mr. Curious, would you like to make a closing, call attention to any evidence that you have?
Yes, I do. If I was to get hired to a position in pharmacy tech, that looks like I would attack people at my job, which wouldn't happen. And I can't guarantee that because I can't be trusted according to this, which doesn't make sense to me. It's not fair. But there's a lot of drugs involved in that work environment. I'm not going to take drugs, do the drugs. Drugs were never part of my life at all. Theft was never a part of, you know, it's not like I'm going to steal the drugs or do the drugs or, you know, I'm there to work, you know, and that's my mindset. You know, whether you believe me or not, I'm there to work. I'm here to move forward, change my life. I got to do something. I'm almost 50 years old. I haven't done nothing for myself. You know, it's disgraceful to myself, to my mom, to my dad. I'm trying to do something to make them happy, to better my life, to move forward. I need a second chance. You know, there's a lot of people that need second chances. I think people deserve a second chance because without a second chance, we can't move forward.
Can I make a closing and rebuttal?
Yes, Ms. Fells.
So again, ringing theme of the day is second chance. And again, I think the criminal justice system gave him many, many, many chances, some of which he took advantage of, some of which he didn't. And I'm not sure in this case, it's up to the Board of Pharmacy to give someone a second chance. You need to look at the patients of the state of Arkansas and determine what's best in their interest. And something that was alluded to earlier today, a lot of pharmacies don't necessarily do the extensive criminal background check that we have. Very few of them will have access to the information that we have. If we do give permits, a lot of pharmacies rely on that. If you're good with the board, they probably feel more comfortable hiring them. So if we give Mr. Forias an application, I think that needs to be considered, that someone hiring him, you know, although I'm sure he would tell them the information, but they may not have access to the information that the board's privy to based on us being a licensing board.
Just curious, would you like to offer a sir rebuttal?
Yes. The fact that I haven't done anything for 20 years to get in trouble should show that, you know, I've stopped what they say, repeating the offenses. I haven't repeated the offenses for 20 plus years. So I don't see why I would do it if I've stopped for so many years. Why would I continue to do it? It shows I've changed. I don't see what else I can do to prove that, you know, but the fact that I haven't been charged for about 20 years. I'm just asking for a second chance. Besides the fact that I got in trouble 20 years ago.
Thank you, sir.
Questions?
Questions?
We were distributed 3 letters of recommendation. I don't think they've been presented. Are these fair for consideration?
They are. They were presented into evidence. I know, Mr. Creas, you didn't reference the letters specifically, but they are in the record. So if you would like to call attention to those for the board's consideration, now is the time.
Yes. I have copies if that's what you.
They have copies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love for them to read those if they.
Yes. And then just for the record, who are these people who have written letters on your behalf?
One of them is a former deputy sheriff. He's retired now. He's known me most of my life. He's seen the changes. The second one is a manager of mine at my previous job. And the other one was Ms. Huffman, my teacher for the curriculum I took.
Thank you. Board, any other questions before we go off the record? Okay. At this time, we will go off the record for the board's recess for deliberations and decision regarding the findings of fact and conclusions of law. Once the board reaches a decision, we'll go back on the record. We're off the record.
We've heard the case. Do any of the board members want to offer up discussion?
Time passed, but there's also a lot.
Let me just ask you all a question for clarification. If we took all of the charges, the convictions that are, what are they and how serious are they? How do they stack up, for instance, to a conviction for murder? That's what I'm trying to grapple with.
Like 6 misdemeanors and 2 Class D felonies.
I guess I would probably come down on the side that that's less than one conviction for murder. When you add it together and the overall seriousness of the offense situation. And said he's been through with alcohol now for 5 years. And with the legal system for how long?
Since 07. What, I'm sorry.
I agree. Mom's quoted earlier in a previous case.
He was second degree. I don't know if that makes a difference. Oh, okay, I see it now.
No, but you.
Was there a conviction?
Pled guilty. Pled guilty. Pled guilty. First and second. as we heard in a different case, people change. But nonetheless, there are consequences to our actions. We have to weigh the balance of the interest of the citizens of Arkansas against the consideration of issuing a permit. So it boils down to a difficult judgment call. Dr. Boone. He's not willing to approve.
Like I said in the earlier case. We're appointed to the board to protect public health, and we have to take these things into consideration. Turn his life around. Tough decision.
The way the law is written, under licensing restrictions based on criminal record, it says an individual is not eligible to receive or hold a license by a licensing entity. So that is the law. The waiver is an exception that requires judgment, and that judgment is difficult when you're trying to weigh it in the balance. But the law is written such that shall not.
Board, I noticed that Mr. Crius did raise his hand and might have a comment. Of course, it's up to you all if you'd like to go back on the record to give him the chance to speak.
Sure.
Okay, we are back on the record. Mr. Crius, the board noticed that you had a comment to make.
Yes.
You may proceed.
What I don't understand is that this is a pardon packet for the governor. So I send it in. They realize it's been a long time. I get all these charges pardoned because that's what I'm shooting for. Now, if that was to happen and I get the pardon, then where am I at after that? Now I don't have the charges on record. I want to do this all over again. I don't know what's going to happen if I do come in front of you guys, but then I get accepted. It doesn't make sense why I wouldn't get a chance this time. But when I get all this pardoned and thrown out, then now it matters. Now I'm not a bad guy. You know, I just don't understand that because I will be going through this process. And like I said, people change. I don't have the same mentality that I did back then. That was a long time ago. I was 25 years ago, drinking, thinking nothing about the world, worrying about nothing, no roof over my head. I have a house now. I have a title to my house. I'm stable. I'm not living with anybody. I'm not renting. I'm trying my best to recuperate what I have left.
I'm gonna have to object to this. I mean, we're beyond the evidence portion of it. I think with regards to the pardon, he's asking board members for legal advice. I'm not sure. they're in a position to answer. So I'm gonna have to object to the record of Mr. Corias' additional evidence past, when we're at the deliberation stage.
I note that objection. Keeping in mind the fact that the rules of evidence are relaxed and the focus is on trying to prevent things that are excessively repetitive. I guess, Mr. Crayos, I'll ask you, any other final thoughts? Because the point that Ms. Fels makes is valid and the deliberation does need to continue.
Yes. I hope all you guys consider this deeply before you make your decision, because I'm shooting for this. It's not just this job, you know. I'm really shooting for this because I'm
Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to go back off the record so that the board can complete its deliberations.
Can I comment on that?
Absolutely.
Get an opportunity. I'm again, you know, I just want to reiterate that the job for the board members is to not provide opportunities for Mr. Corias necessarily, is to protect the patients. The pharmacy owners that are looking to hire pharmacy technicians are relying on the board members to get this right. And they trust that when someone comes before the board, the decision is to grant a license, and they can rely on that as an employment decision. And again, you know, regardless of the amount of time, these are pretty egregious offenses. And I don't think that you can sort of wipe that away with a number of years. So that's all I would say in rebuttal.
Thank you, Ms. Fels. We're back off the record for continued deliberations.
Any further discussion? Anything that we've heard that causes you to waver?
Is anyone willing to make a motion to approve the waiver?
Straw vote, it would appear that the answer to that is no. Are we ready to make a motion?
Make the motion.
All right, we'll go back on the record.
We're back on the record for the board's motion and vote.
Matter of Lawrence Caress, technician applicant, case number 2024-087. The Board of Pharmacy finds that allegations 1 through 12 are true and charge one is proven. The board denies the waiver for approval of a technician permit.
Motion by Dr. Jolly. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Boone. Any additional discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion's unanimous.
Let the record reflect that the decision by the board was unanimous. Ms. Fels, please reduce the board decision to writing and make her attempt serviceable. Mr. Carrios. Sir, if you wish to appeal the decision, appeal can be taken under any specific provision relating to this board or under the Arkansas Administrative Procedures Act found at Arkansas Code annotated 2515-201 and following. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this hearing is concluded and the record is closed. Hang in there, sir.
I will.
I hope that pardon goes through.
I don't let this get to me. I know I'm going to get my chance.
Yes, sir.
Will I get a copy of? Okay. Thank you.
Good luck.
I just want you, nothing against you guys. You guys did your job. Thank you.
Is that the proper pronunciation?
Yes.
Fantastic. Any of us slips up, give us a little grace. We've been here since 8:45. We are now on the record in the matter of April Dories, case number 2024-085. My name is Joshua Baxter, and I am the hearing officer today. This matter is to be heard before the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy. Today is the 9th day of October, 2024. Ms. Doris, would you please identify yourself for the record, first and last name?
April Dories.
Thank you. And I see that you are not represented by an attorney, correct?
No, sir.
Did you receive a copy of the order and notice of today's hearing?
Yes, sir.
And you are ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Board's counsel, would you please identify yourself for the record?
My name is Ashley Bales. I'm general counsel for the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Doris, just a few introductory notes. Interrupt me if you know these things, but I'm just going to march through them. For the benefit of anyone present today who may not have been in one of these hearings, the board, these folks over here, not me, I'm the hearing officer. I just keep decorum, do my best to ensure that procedure is followed. The board will base its decision solely on the evidence presented here today. This hearing is held under the Arkansas Administrative Procedures Act, which means that the strict rules of evidence do not apply. So you don't have to worry as much about hearsay. If there's anything that you wish to introduce into evidence today in this hearing is your opportunity. To ensure efficiency of the proceeding, I'll grant objections only as necessary. All participants to the hearing should be aware that these proceedings are subject to the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act. And as such, all parts of this hearing, including the deliberations of the board, even when the record is closed, are open to the public. For those of you who are maybe witnesses in this hearing, would you please raise your right hand? And Ms. Doris, you as well. Thank you, ma'am. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Fales, are there any preliminary matters you'd like to discuss?
Yes, I move to admit into evidence exhibits number 1 through 11. Ms. Doris has those in front of her, and the board has them in their tablets. In addition to that, Ms. Doris has presented her pharmacy technician certification board and her appeal letter. That's already in evidence, but I have no objection to that exhibit being admitted into evidence also.
Okay. Ms. Doris, any objections?
What is an objection? What is an objection?
An objection is you saying that this information should not be considered because it's irrelevant or doesn't relate to the matter at hand.
Okay, no, sir.
Sounds good. Let the record reflect that the board's exhibits 1 through 11 and Ms. Doris' exhibits, including the certification board, as well as the email, have been admitted into evidence without objection. Ms. Fales, any other matters?
I just asked the board to take judicial notice of applicable pharmacy statutes and rules governing this proceeding as outlined in the order of notice of hearing.
And loosely translated, that just means that the Arkansas Code, relevant provisions, and the rules relating to the Board of Pharmacy is going to be what controls this hearing. Do you have any objections to that?
No, sir.
Let the record reflect that without objection, judicial notice has been taken. Would either of you like to make an opening statement?
I'm going to waive opening.
Yes, ma'am.
No, sir.
Perfect. And just to make sure you understand, opening statement is basically where you can just present your case, but you will have an opportunity to give testimony and call witnesses as you see fit. In that case, Ms. Fales, you may proceed with calling your first witness.
Well, Dr. Brenda McCready.
Let the record reflect that Dr. McCready has been sworn in. You may proceed.
Dr. McCready, as your role as Assistant Director of the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy, do you review pharmacy technician registration applications?
I do.
Did you review the application of April Dories?
I did.
And did Miss Dories disclose any arrests
She did not.
on her application? She did not.
No, ma'am.
Did she disclose any cases that were expunged or sealed?
She did not.
Okay. And Ms. Doherty's once notified about our staff requested a waiver, is that correct?
That's correct.
And can I turn your attention to exhibit number 6?
Yes, ma'am.
So the request of waiver from Ms. Doherty's.
It is.
And one of the questions asked is the nature of crime or disciplinary action. And what did she mark under that column?
Misdemeanor.
Another column is nature of treatment or rehabilitation. Did she mark anything on that column?
She checked yes, and she also wrote community service below that.
Okay, do we have any documents regarding any treatment or rehabilitation program for Ms. Doherty's
Not that I'm aware of.
or any like community service necessarily?
No.
Okay, so I'll ask Ms. Doherty's about that in a moment. Let me turn your attention. After the criminal background check was ran, what was discovered in her criminal history?
On March 20th, 2014, she was arrested by the Jacksonville, Alabama Police Department for possession of drug misdemeanor and possession of brass knuckles misdemeanor. According to her statement, she had a skull can in her purse. She appeared in court on April 13th, 2014, and the disposition was deferred for payment of fines, fees, and submission of drug screens. On August 25th of 2015, the matter was dismissed with prejudice.
All right, and the board, based on the information and I guess the fact that she did not disclose any arrest on her application, make a decision on her application as a staff?
As a staff member, if a person does not disclose their criminal history, we do deny the application.
Okay. Do you have anything else to add with regard to Ms. Doherty's?
I do not.
Pass the witness.
You are welcome to ask Dr. McCready any questions. This would be cross-examination. We ask that you limit your questions right now only to what was just spoken about. You will have an opportunity to give your side of the story.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Board, yes, ma'am.
I sometimes work at this location.
Boards, council, I know each board has its own rules of appearance of impropriety.
Have you ever worked with Ms. Doherty's before? Do you know her before today? I mean, I'm not going to tell you, it's your right to recuse or not recuse. I think due to the number of board members here, we would have to have Dr. Richmond vote in this matter then, that's correct. Or would we have a quorum? Okay, no, so we would not have a quorum if you recuse, but we can move this to another date if we need to do that.
I do think, Doctor, the general standard is whether you feel that you can be impartial and unbiased in your decision-making. And so I think the question would be your awareness or familiarity with this place. Does that impact your judgment of this particular case in any way? And if not, I see nothing under the statute or under the rules that would prevent you from continuing to listen and to vote.
I can do it.
Okay. With all these things noted, we'll proceed. Thank you so much, ma'am. Board, any additional comments or questions for Dr. McCready? Okay, thank you so much. Ms. Fels, I'm assuming no other witness, correct?
So we rest.
Okay. Ms. Doris, now's your opportunity to speak to the situation. Afterwards, Ms. Fels will ask you questions. It's likely the board will have some questions as well. You may proceed.
I answered no on my application because after I was deferred when I was 22. I thought that was something that just kind of went away. So like I've never answered yes on an application since then. So I was under the impression that I wasn't obligated to disclose that information in any kind of legal matter. Because that's how the judge made it sound when he was talking to me about it. So, and that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Vales?
Ms. Stories, I have a question about your waiver form. If you want to open that book up and turn to tab 6. So you marked on there, and I'm looking at the second column that says nature of treatment or rehabilitation. You put a check mark next to other treatment rehabilitation program, and then you wrote community service. So I'm just wanting clarification on what in your past thinks constitutes you checking that off, I guess.
Well, because you requested the waiver, because it did appear on my record for the arrest, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do the waiver. And so I could go ahead and like tell you what happened and what was done. The stuff that I did issued by the court was that I had to sign up for drug screens, which I passed all of them. And then I had to do community service, which I did all of it. And that's what I did. And so that's what I thought I was supposed to put.
Okay, that's fine. And then in your statement, which is under tab 7, but you talked about you in your purse, you had your boyfriend's skull can, which was deemed drug paraphernalia.
Yes.
So how did you have contact with the police at that time?
We were leaving a party and got pulled over, and it was a party, so we were searched. This was when I was 22 and I was in college. And the police, if you've ever heard of Jackson Hole State University, that's where I was going to college at the time. And like if you're leaving a party, you're bound to get pulled over and searched. And I got his gold. Well, he was like, "Will you put this in my purse?" And I said yes. And
so what was illegal in the skull can?
I really don't know. They didn't tell me.
Okay. But you had it in your purse, and I guess you went through with the case regarding that and had to do all these drug screens and things that you were talking about.
Yes,
and they
ma'am.
deferred disposition of your case.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So during the process, they charged you with possession of drug paraphernalia, but they never told you what the skull can was positive for?
No, ma'am.
And your boyfriend at the time never said, "Wait, no, that's my skull can," I guess?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And just ask, you submitted this certification board. Do you want to tell the board about this that you presented?
Oh, that was my recent certification of pharmacy. I've been working in pharmacy, retail pharmacy, since 2017. And I've done background checks and I've done drug tests and I've passed them all.
And have you
Besides-
done that in the state of Arkansas or another state?
Alabama.
So you're a licensed technician in Alabama?
Yes, I think it's expired now because I didn't renew it this year because I
Mhm.
was living here. But yes, ma'am, I have it in my car.
And so just for clarification, when you read that question on our application, have you ever been arrested? You thought the answer should be no?
Yes, ma'am. I didn't think it was a problem. Like I've always marked no because the judge, like when I got it deferred, I just thought it just went away. Like I didn't know I thought it was like I wasn't arrested.
Okay, well, I guess now you know it's
Yes,
still
ma'am.
showing up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's all the questions I have for Ms. Dories.
Thank you, Ms. Vales. Board, questions of Ms. Doris? Yes, Mr. Simpson.
Ms. Driggs, my only concern is that if you're gonna be a pharmacy tech, you've got to pay attention to detail. And there are at least two details that you clearly missed when you fill that form out. One, the form says, are there any arrests? And the other is that the form says, let's get this, it says that whether or not the arrest citation was dismissed through drug court diversion, expunged, and so forth. And my concern is if you're going to be a pharmacy tech, you've got to pay attention to details, because a couple of letters being different in a drug name or numbers with regard to the dosage that's done is all the difference in the world. So I just want to say you need to be careful about that.
Thank you.
Seeing no additional questions, we'll go to closing arguments. Ms. Bells, would you like to make a closing?
I'll wait.
Thank you. And Ms. Doris, would you like to make a closing?
No, sir.
Thank you so much. At this time, we're going to go off the record for the board's recess for deliberations and a decision regarding the findings of fact and conclusions of law. Once the board reaches a decision, we'll go back on the record. We are off the record.
Okay, we'll go back on the record.
We are back on the record.
Oh, you got it?
In the matter of April Dories, technician applicant, case number 2024085. The board finds that charges A1 through A6 are true. I'm sorry, allegations A1 through A6 are true. The charge is proven. I make a motion that we grant the waiver and give her technician permit.
Second. We have a motion from Dr. Jolly, second by Dr. Boone. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously.
Ms. Fales, please reduce the board decision to writing and serve on Ms. Doris. Ms. Doris, congratulations. Any further questions or comments?
No, sir.
All right, this hearing is concluded and the record is closed. Thank you so much. I think we have to.
I have those papers in the pack. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
More head out there.
We already did that.
Already did more.
Y'all have a good safe travels.
Yeah, the only one left is Jenkins, and I think that's a paper review.
I don't want to rest on one.
Matters of
Yeah. He's down in the hall, doesn't even know how to do it. You can go downstairs.
No, 9 hours.
Audrey?
Yeah, you're about done. Probably good.
Take the elevator. Leave it to Brandon to be there. I think we're
Okay.
ready.
We are on the record in the matter of Ms. Talisa Jenkins, case number 2024089 for the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy. My name is Joshua Baxter and I'll be the hearing officer today. Today is the 9th day of October, 2024. The respondent is not present, so we're going to pass it directly to Board's Counsel. Board's Counsel, would you please identify yourself for the record?
Ashley Bales, General Counsel for the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy.
In light of the fact that Ms. Jenkins is not present, we're going to skip the explanation of proceedings. We are going to swear in witnesses, though. For those of you who are maybe witnesses today in this matter, please raise your right hand to be sworn in. You swear affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. In terms of preliminary matters, Ms. Vales, how would you like to proceed?
I move to admit into evidence exhibits 1 through 20 in this matter for the board's review.
Let the record reflect that exhibits 1 through 20 have been admitted to evidence without objection. Any other matters, ma'am?
I ask the board to take judicial notice of applicable pharmacy statutes and rules governing this hearing as outlined in the order of notice of hearing in this matter.
Judicial notice so taken without objection. Ms. Vales, how would you like to proceed?
I'm going to make a brief opening and then probably rest on the records presented.
Yes, ma'am.
Board members, if you'll remember, Ms. Jenkins was here in August for the informal committee on her pharmacy technician registration application. The board referred her to a formal hearing. I scheduled her for the next available board meeting, which is today. Notice was sent, order of notice of hearing was sent and mailed to Ms. Jenkins' address on file in the GL system with the board on September 6, 2024. Again, mailed to her last known address. And the allegations are that on April 14, 2015, she was arrested for possession of controlled substance. In her statement, she said she was pulled over for a traffic offense and had some marijuana. That disposition was deferred on payment of fines and court costs, and the charge was dismissed in 2016 after she did those obligations. And then more recently, January of 2022, she was arrested for domestic battery in the 3rd degree Class A misdemeanor. And according to the police report, she was moving her personal items from the home she shared with her boyfriend. The altercation occurred, which became physical. Police observed scratches and bruising on the boyfriend's face. She was sentenced to fine and court costs and complied with all the court orders. After hearing this evidence, the board's informal committee again referred this for a formal hearing. I'm going to ask that the application be denied based on the criminal history and the fact that she's not been here to present any additional evidence after being given notice at her last known address. And I will rest on the exhibits that have been admitted into evidence.
Noted. Thank you, Ms. Vales. Board, do you have any questions of Ms. Vales? Would you like to go off the record for deliberations? You prepared to make a motion?
Prepared.
I'll make a motion if that's okay.
Go right ahead.
So after having reviewed the allegations and charges in the order of notice of hearing and the exhibits presented in the matter of Talisa Jenkins, technician applicant, case number 2024-089, make a motion that the application for waiver be denied.
We have a motion by Dr. Jolly. Is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. Simpson. Any discussion on the matter? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is unanimous.
I would like to add that we do find the allegations 1 through 5 true and the charge proven. I'm sorry, I did not make that a part of the original. Did I? I
Okay, you did.
Okay. Been a long day. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'm not sure in that light, if we put on the record that we did sound the hall, Dr. Holland sound the hall and did not find Ms. Jenkins. She was scheduled to be here at 1:45.
So let it be noted that.
And that seconder, I have no objection to the amendment of the vote.
Thank you, sir. Let it be noted that Ms. Jenkins was contacted and was served as was proper and appropriate, and the hall was sounded. Ms. Vales, please reduce this board decision to writing, make her service on Ms. Jenkins. If Ms. Jenkins wishes to appeal the decision, appeal can be taken under any specific provision of this board or under the Arkansas Administrative Procedures Act found at ACA 2515-201 and following. Seeing that there are no questions or comments, this hearing is concluded and the record is closed. We are off the record.
I'd like to thank all the board members who are here, those who have already left, board staff, Attorney General's office. Thanks to everyone. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second.
Before we adjourn, when is our next regularly scheduled meeting? We know.
Will be the next,
Informal,
I do,
The next regular formal.
then the regular formal.
I need an informal date and we need a formal date. I mean, we can, if everybody wants to go home and is amenable to that, we can have Ms. Whitmore email everybody with their availability. Yeah, since we're not all here, if that's what we can do that, if that's what you'd like to do.
looking at November or January for an informal.
I mean, that's up to y'all. You know, I have enough to fill one up now, so.
Wait till January and we end up being on.
It's, yeah, that's true. I would say,
November's full for me.
yeah, I would say maybe December would be better, early December, because I'd like to give people at least like 30 days notice. So I guess look at your calendar, maybe the first week in December for informal and then,
Debbie and I will be out that
Oh,
first week of December. Yeah.
okay, well, we'll email everybody, but then that board meeting is usually what week in February? Second? Yeah, so the
Y'all
second.
got mid-years, what, the second?
I'm not going.
You're not gonna go?
So.
All right.
I've got finals week.
Well, I guess everybody needs to just look at their calendar and we'll work it out.